Here we go. Tuesday morning as we roll through the week. Middle of October, the 15th, Preston Thorne. And just like that, we're halfway through the month of Halloween. We're now halfway through the football season for the University of South Carolina. And I think we still don't know what exactly we're working with here with this team.
Oh, I beg to differ.
Okay.
I think we've got what we are.
All right.
I'm not sure if we love the answer. I think we have some clear answers to who we are. But since you said halfway, tomorrow we'll be doing mid-year reports.
Mid-year reports.
That's tomorrow.
Oh, boy.
That's tomorrow. We're here. We're middle of the year.
And if they're like I was for mid-year report cards, they're terrified. They're already doing extra chores around the house, sucking up just a little bit, maybe offering to fix dinner. Very wise on the Gamecocks' part. So we'll get into all of that this morning. I'm sure we'll have some grades to get to as well. Preston says we have an answer. That's all he said, is we have an answer. Now, I don't know if it's the answer to a question that was a national question, only now to find out it's true. One coach did. When is a penalty not a penalty?
I think Lane Kiffin's been stretching that theory for a long time. Yeah, we do. Also, I think we have an answer to that question also.
We have a question to that. Dan Lanning answering a question that I think you thought yesterday he did, but he wouldn't answer directly. But he did. He did.
I think we got the answer.
And we'll get into that a little bit this morning, as well as be joined by J.C. Shurburtt coming up in hour number 2. But we'll kind of start to try our best, if you will, to put the South Carolina-Alabama game to bed. I don't know if it's easier to put that one to bed than it was the Mississippi game. The Mississippi game was so baffling, just such a unique, incredibly awful performance, Preston, that may have been more difficult to put to bed than a 2-point loss to Alabama, in which you had every opportunity, so many opportunities to win that game, to pick up a signature victory, and yet you let it slip right through your hands. And now we try to decipher, was it a good performance? Was it a bad performance? And yeah, I actually have continued to debate that. Was it a bad performance given some of the things that occurred? And Alabama is, well, I don't know. As the SEC Shorts did it yesterday, Preston, and Jen, I don't know if you saw it. Is Alabama a fraud? Is the SEC right now a bunch of frauds? Just Georgia and Texas doing what they got to do, and everybody else.
That's one of my favorite. That's one of my favorite words. One of my favorite words, and I think if we determine that determines how we feel about this game.
Okay.
Because if we determine that Alabama's a fraud, then we have to feel worse about this game.
Okay.
If they're a fraud, then we blew an opportunity.
All right.
If they're legit, then we can feel good about going into a top 10 teams, road game, blah, 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 Bear Bryant, blah, 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 Nick Saban, 20 championships. But if they are actually a fraud,
okay,
then we blew it.
All right. Interesting. That's an interesting concept then, because maybe we'll have to play a little bit of Fraud Detector 3000, as the SEC Shorts did yesterday, where they tried to figure out who was a fraud and who is not a fraud here as we hit really the midway point of the college football season to try and determine what exactly you've got. There's been a change. I know the AP Top 25 came out Sunday, Preston, but now it looks like maybe the Big Ten is the conference more in control there when you see 2, 3, 4 all being Big Ten schools: Oregon, Penn State, Ohio State. The SEC has just 2 top 5 schools. The ACC able to slip one team in there. So was the Big 12. And when you get down to the top 10, or 2 teams from the ACC, and Miami at 6, Clemson at 10. When you go to 10, the Big 12 getting one team in there at undefeated Iowa State. Remember that? I feel that's the face. If I'd have told you Iowa State was undefeated, if you don't ever, because what just happened is exactly why you should go and check out our live stream on YouTube, the Game TV Radio. When I said undefeated Iowa State at 6-0, the face I got from Preston Thorne was priceless and classic.
Well, that's because speaking of frauds, I've had Matt Campbell squarely in that bin of the fraud bin. He's been there for a minute now. He was a hot name. He was around. He's somebody that everybody was really interested in. And I don't know how that slipped by me.
Iowa State 6-0 on the season, just getting it done. The 1-point win over Iowa. Then they've kind of cruised to victories over Arkansas State, Houston, Baylor, West Virginia. They opened the season with a win over North Dakota State. They'll get Central. They've still got. I'm assuming this is a schedule set up for being undefeated. Central Florida, Texas Tech, Kansas, Cincinnati, Utah, and Iowa State. It would feel like we were looking – this is where I think I like the 12-team college football playoff, Preston, because it feels like if we were still at the 4-team college football playoff, if Iowa State were to run that schedule out, Central Florida, Texas Tech, Kansas, Cincinnati, they do go to Utah on November 23rd, and then November 30th they get Kansas State. It'd be kind of like, do they deserve to be in the college football playoff? Should they be in the college football? The original 4-team. And it would be kind of like, I don't want to see them in the college football playoff. They're going to get exposed. Now with the 12-team, I'm like, sure, let them in. They've earned it. Let them be a top 4 seed. Whatever. You still get a whole bunch of the other teams maybe that are maybe more deserving. I don't know. Who cares? Let Iowa State in.
Yeah, I'm still reeling from the fact that they're even in this conversation. I was already fixated on, Army, Navy, BYU.
Yeah. BYU's been the Big 12.
This one
just caught you off guard.
It caught me way off guard, actually.
Didn't have Iowa State on the bingo card to discuss in segment 1 of the Tuesday morning show.
Not at all.
Being undefeated. So, we got that. So, we'll get into a little college football. Maybe not just SEC frauds and non-frauds, but maybe college football as a whole here as we really hit the midway point of the season. The majority of teams having played 6 games, a few playing 7 already, but we'll get into a lot of that this morning as we go through. Again, if you ever want to join us via the text line, via the phone line, 803-404-6100. That's how you can weigh in if you want to do so this morning. Speaking of which, let's go out to the phone lines. Gamecock Larry wants something to say. How you doing, Gamecock Larry? What's on your mind?
I'm doing fine. 6 down and 6 to go. We should be 5-1, but we're not. And I'm going to say in the 6 to go, we are going to go 5-1. We are tired of getting these close losses on these teams. And we are going 5-1 and maybe 6-0. We gonna wind up the season either 8-4 or 9-3. And that is the final word old Gamecock Larry gonna say to you today. I feel good. Maybe 6-0. Look out. Here come the Gamecocks. And another thing, all these other conferences got this and lost. I don't think, let me say it, I want to say it right. The SEC has a tougher schedule with the SEC teams than any other conference has. Look at the little schools they play, and no wonder they're 6-0. No wonder Clemson is this. If Clemson played 4 games like we played in the SEC, they'd be 1-3 or maybe 0-4. All I got to say, love all y'all. Go Gamecocks. Talk to you later. Go Gamecocks.
Again, maybe we'll have to go down a fraud alert thing, though. Is the SEC
I'm strong
as tough? Gamecock Larry thinks so, but is the SEC as tough as we think, hope, always wish?
There might be some merit to that. I'm sure some people around the country might be looking around like, I don't know.
Tennessee needing overtime to get past Florida. Is LSU actually the number 8 team in the country? Is Alabama the number 7 team in the country? Oh, a lot of questions about the Texas A&M. Are they really number 14 under old ball coach Mike Elko? Just big old wear a grill cover for a pullover Mike Elko.
That's exactly what it looked like. Just threw on a tarp.
Went down to the local Home Depot and picked up a tarp. 803-404-6100 if you want to weigh in this morning. We'll get into a little bit of fraud alert, and we'll get into some grades as well. What were the grades from the weekend? Think about it in your mind. We'll let Preston Thorne tell you about it when we come back. You're listening to Preston Thorne, Bill Gunner, Sheets Jen Jensen. It's the early game.
Press for fear for our friends at Absolute Glass, the premier glass company of the Midlands, offering auto, home, and business glass repair. So if your glass is damaged, shattered, cracked, or broken, Absolute Glass can handle the job. If it's a cracked windshield, that's no problem. They'll come out to your location and replace it for you, usually for free, and they work directly with the insurance company to take away the headache. Now, if you're looking to increase the value of your home with new windows and mirrors, you can do that with Absolute Glass too. And remember, they'll come out to wherever you are. If they want to come out to your home, they'll do that. If you're stranded somewhere, they'll do that also. They'll come out to your home, replace the windows, mirrors, or shower enclosures. If you can see through it, Absolute Glass can do it. So check them out online at AbsoluteGlassInc.com. That's online at AbsoluteGlassInc.com.
For your Tuesday morning out there on the highways, we're not seeing any major slowdowns at this point, and we're going to put it out into the universe that we're not looking for any today. So let's hope for the best. A little bit cooler air moving into the Midlands for the remainder of this week. Looking for a high today of 71, that overnight low of 45. Tomorrow, a high of 64, overnight low of 39, both tomorrow and into Thursday as well. Thursday's high is 65. So some chilly mornings on the way, including today, starting off your morning at 46 on the early game.
Reminder coming up today, we will hear from Shane Beamer. So we'll really start to move on to Oklahoma, a pivotal game, one that we'll get into a lot tomorrow, and look ahead to what Brent Venables and the Sooners have got to say and what they are thinking. But today we kind of finish things up with South Carolina. But reminder again, 1 o'clock today, you can hear the Shane Beamer press conference right here at 107.5 The Game in Columbia, 100.3 The Game in Myrtle Beach. So one of the things we do on Tuesdays, we don't give out grades. We could give out grades. We don't, but we take them from Pro Football Focus, and we analyze what the professionals at Pro Football Focus have to say, and we have a few of those.
We
Well,
report
we're
the
giving grades. We're assessing.
That's right.
Oh, yeah.
And
That's what I'm saying. We don't give grades.
They earn the grades. We're not giving them. They've earned.
That's
Kind of like if you
Jen, that's
don't
a
get
good line.
fired, you fire yourself.
That's a good line. I didn't give you that. You earned that. So we don't even give it to them. We're just reporting what PFF says as far as grades are concerned.
Correct.
Okay. Bill, there's a couple places we can start here. Do you want to start with the answer to a burning question? Do you want to start with who got the highest grade? Do you want to start with Norris Sellers?
As a person who basically waits on movies to come out in theaters only to then read the Wikipedia to find out how the movie is, I want to know the burning question answer.
Okay. Case and Henry. We've been looking at Case and Henry. We've had the Madden Cam on Case and Henry. Case and Henry got replaced throughout this game. There was a substitute,
Jatavius Shivers.
Jatavius Shivers came in for him. Good news, bad news. Jatavius Shivers played better than Case and Henry. Graded out higher than Case and Henry when he came in and played for him.
Okay.
That's the good news. The bad news is they both failed. The worst news is they both failed really bad. Really, really low on the scores.
Interested to hear this.
So neither one of them graded out above a 50 on this percentage. Jatavius played slightly better, but neither one of them were very good according to PFF. And so I guess that leaves us with a quandary, because the person that they substituted in for Kaysen did not play well, and then Kaysen wasn't playing well. I don't know what that means moving forward for them, but both of them gave up multiple pressures, multiple hurries. In fact, though Jatavius graded out higher, he allowed more pressures and more hurries than Kaysen.
Okay. So I had to look it up. This is according to thebigspur.com. Henry played the first 21 snaps of the game before being replaced by Shivers, who saw the rest of the action playing the final 54 offensive snaps. Now, it does say that Henry suffered an injury. It was not disclosed during postgame or if he was able to return to the game. I will start with this. It was Jatavius Shivers' first action that he's ever had.
Fine.
54 snaps. I give him a pass.
And that's fair.
Yeah.
That's totally fair. First action that he's seen, he came into the game. That's some information for me as far as the injury is concerned. I'm not sure if that was the reason for the substitution or if that was a convenient, maybe we give somebody else another chance here that you're not 100%. I can understand either way. That's fine. And so, yeah, you can give him a pass moving forward. Just reporting the grades, though, there wasn't a significant improvement at that particular position. On the flip side, Torricelli Simpson continues to play well.
Okay.
He continues to play well. Had the highest offensive grade overall, and on the future report, Josiah Thompson played his best game.
Okay.
Grade wise, he graded out 76. I keep saying percent, but it's not percent. But he graded out a 70% on this scale. And
76?
76, yes, on this scale, and that's the best that he's graded out all year. So he had his best game. So you can take that for what it is.
How are they across the board when you look at that?
Across the board, very average. Everybody's in the range aside from that position. Aside from the right tackle position, everybody's in the range from 65 to 76, which is fine. It's a winning percentage. You can win games at that percentage.
So what I'm starting to wonder, what I'm starting to feel, and I'd like to hear John Strickland's opinion or somebody with a little bit more knowledge on the offensive line itself, is without saying too many times consecutively, is the offensive line struggles almost solely because of the right tackle position, that the right tackle is struggling so poorly that is actually, because you've talked about it, those 5 guys have got to be cohesive. There's got to be chemistry. They've got to work in unison there to be able to be a competent offensive line. And it feels like more times than not. Now, we've seen some bad grades at other positions, but it feels like more times than not, it is the right tackle position that is bringing the entire group down when it comes to, if you were to do a group grade, a group project where all 5 guys are graded, it feels like the right tackle position is, generally speaking, the one that brings down the group average.
Well, looking at this, if we're just looking at pressures allowed, the right tackle position was responsible for 7 pressures allowed. The rest of the line was responsible for 8 pressures allowed.
So 15 total, half of them coming just from the right tackle position.
Mm-hmm.
And then this brings me to a question that we can't get an answer to. Where is Tree Babalade? Is he injured? Is he out for the year? Are they redshirting him? What exactly is his status for a guy like, did they want to redshirt him to get him a year, much like Shivers was able to get a year last year and develop without having to play and do all that? Is because it sounds like the other 4 guys are holding their own by and large, and it's that right tackle position that's just getting whooped basically on every possession.
Well, that's just looking at that, and I think that's something that I didn't plan on teasing out as far as statistic is concerned, but you're right. Nearly 50% of the pressures allowed just during this game, and we probably should look over throughout the course of the season, but just during this game was given from one position. And that definitely changes the way you call plays. That changes the way you choose protections. That probably influences a lot of things. So that's really interesting.
Also, I can't help but wonder, did Shivers' grade get dropped because he called a pass and rumbled for 2 yards?
He don't have any. He does have a reception on here, which is an interesting play call. All right, let's go. With that being said, I think we can let's try and make a thread here. This should come as no surprise. Lenora Sellers is better when he has a clean pocket.
Right.
We don't need analytics to help us figure that out. But I think what is interesting is how much better he is when he has a clean pocket. When Lenora Sellers has a clean pocket, if I'm looking here correctly, when he has a clean pocket, he grades out at a 90 efficiency rate.
Okay.
90 rate. When he's under pressure, it drops down to 50. Now, what we would need to see is, what does that mean for the rest of the quarterbacks in the nation? Do they have similar statistics? But you can see that Lenora Sellers can make the throws. He can run the offense when he has an opportunity. When the pocket's not clean, or when he's not protected, or when there's pressure, he obviously struggles. Not every quarterback struggles when there's pressure. We get that. But I guess what I'm saying is there's a large gap between what I'm saying is he can get it done when given an opportunity, and 2, there is a large gap between having it clean and having pressure on him.
I guess my question would be for you when you say that, when we make that, and that's not, as you said, not a surprise, but I wonder what his completion percentage is. It feels like he is a little bit better when you get him out of the pocket. Now, he missed a wide open throw rolling to his right for the 2-point conversion that obviously would have changed the course of that game. But it does make me wonder. And I think on the flip side of that, you have seen him improving with each game, standing in the pocket, delivering. Remember early against those in the Old Dominion game, a lot of throws were high. He was not really stepping into him. He was kind of leaning back on him. Throws were sailing on him. It does feel like he's gotten a lot better at being able to stand in the pocket, work on his accuracy, work on his form, and deliver the strikes that he needs to.
Yes, and so that's the basic fundamentals. Those are the passes, those are the throws that you have to make. Now, again, rolling out is not the same as being under pressure, because there wasn't much pressure on that 2-point conversion. He was rolling out. Right. There were people in pursuit, but I wouldn't necessarily consider that pressure. I would consider pressure somebody's in your face, making you get off your spot, affecting your actual throw. He had a chance to go through all the fundamentals he needed to make that throw. So I think a lot, like with this team, you can look for the positive, you can look for the negative, and you'll be able to find it with these grave reports.
803-404-6100 if you want to weigh in on any of that. Real quick, we'll change subjects here just a second. Rob, go ahead.
Real quick, and just to jump in, for everybody who's clamoring for Nick Harbor graded out as 71.
Better?
His best performance.
He gets tries there. Rob and Santias, can you talk a little bit about your thoughts on the final drive? And you can kind of tie that in with Lenoris because obviously, again, had some opportunities there, including a clean pocket on that final pass that I'm not all that upset about it. I don't know. Maybe he should have thrown the check down. Maybe he shouldn't have.
The final drive, I think, is a culmination of two, just what we just said. Lenoris being young, Nick being inexperienced. I don't know whether Nick broke the pattern off before he was supposed to or if there was a miscommunication. I understand Lenoris taking that shot. In hindsight, maybe he would have dumped it off in the flats and given them maybe another opportunity to run another play or kick a long field goal. But then again, with the field goal kicking situation, is that a risk you want to take? So you can figure it out.
Yeah, it's hard for me to argue with anything on the field. I mean, it's one of those things where if he connects with Sellers down the field, if he connects with Harbor down the field, we're having a totally different conversation this morning. Boy, that old Nick Harper's finally arrived. Oof, that 5-star. Boy, Lenoris Sellers, look at what he did, but they didn't connect him. 803-404-6100. We'll come back. We'll flip to the defensive side of things. We thought the defense was really good. Well, how did they grade out? What do the grades look like? We'll let Preston Thorne tell us that as we roll along. You're listening to Preston Thorne, Bill Gunner, she's Jen Jensen. It is the early game.
It's time to get yourself ready. We've been telling you all year, and it's not too late. The fall is here. This is the best time to be sitting outside on your porch. You can enjoy all of the sports that are coming at you. They're coming fast and furious. And the folks that can help you get it started with that are Integrated Media. You can get Samsung Terrace TVs waterproofed. You can get Sonos outdoor speakers for TV and music or Wi-Fi that works indoors and outdoors. You can watch all of the sports, baseball, football, NFL, WNBA, whatever you want to watch. Why not get the folks at Integrated Media to get your setup ready and you can watch it outside? So from home theater setup to adjusting your thermostat or monitoring your security systems from your cell phone, Integrated Media is the company that you need to call. So call Nathan and Michael at 803-948-8327. That's 803-948-8327. Or you can reach them online at integratedmediainc.com.
Traffic flow going pretty well this morning. Nice Tuesday for you, hopefully. We won't see any accidents and we won't have any really big slowdowns to have to worry about today. 71 is going to be our high, that overnight low of 45. 64 tomorrow, 65 on Thursday, both overnight lows 39. So definitely you're going to be needing some kind of a jacket or a sweatshirt or something to get your day started for the next few days. Because, in fact, right now we're looking at 46 on 107.5 The Game.
.34 on your Tuesday morning. I'm ready for Wednesday. I'm ready to move into this Oklahoma game, but we still got to break down a little bit of the Alabama game. Speaking of which, no special teams touchdown. Do you have grades for special teams on this?
I do not.
Okay. All right. Just checking. But don't forget the Lawyer Lisa Special Teams Contest. Right now, pot $700. We don't have grades to even tell you if there's a chance or how that may shake out. But pot is currently $700. All you got to do is register at 1075thegame.com. If South Carolina scores a special teams touchdown this weekend, you could win what is in the pot, which is currently $700. Go to 1075thegame.com. Get registered. It is the Lawyer Lisa Special Teams Contest. So we did offensive grades. And maybe as we go through the week now, it opens up the question more of, is the offensive line, the way we studied that. The big stat that you came up with there, 15 quarterback pressures Saturday afternoon against Alabama, 7 of which came from the right tackle position alone, which was Jatavius Shivers and Casey Henry. And you mentioned both of those not grading out very well at all. Shivers with a higher grade than Casey Henry, but neither particularly good. We looked at the snap count. Shivers played 54 snaps. Henry played 21.
Yeah, so there was some relief for the position as far as Casey was concerned, but Jatavius did not play really well. You hinted that was Jatavius' first time out. We'll give him a pass. Huge game for you to get your first opportunity, so I'm not no fault there. But overall, the position is still lacking.
So then that moves us over to the the defensive side of the ball. What do we have going there?
If you had to guess the two people who graded out the highest, I bet you could.
I feel like the easy answer. The easy one is Kyle Kennard. I feel like the second one you're going to tell me is Dylan Stewart.
No.
But I was going to say I would go maybe one of the linebackers.
Yeah, so we got Kyle Kennard that continues to play well and continues to be very, very consistent as far as his play is concerned. Played extremely well, graded out overall at a 72. But the highest grade was to O.D. Fortune.
Oh, okay. Yeah, didn't even go that
so
far
you
back.
Think about that. So O.D. Fortune, your eyes, and this is really interesting because sometimes the grades don't match up with what you think your eyes saw, but these absolutely landed. O.D. Fortune graded out his highest grade of the year at 82, played really well, which for him states that he was up for the challenge. I don't know whether he was, getting himself ready all week. He probably was psyching himself out. Maybe he had a picture of Ryan Williams on his phone as the phone lock or something like that. But he played a great game when it was needed for him to play a great game. So O.D. Fortune might have put himself on some people's radars with the way that he played that game. Then you mentioned it also, DQ Smith. After Kyle Kennard, number 3 was DQ Smith. He played really well, had a lot of tackles. And then number 4 was Jalen Kilgore. So, based on what you think you saw, I would say the grades aligned exactly with what you saw.
Going back to the O.D. Fortune thing, you wonder, and Preston, I don't know if this ever occurred during your time where, as a younger player, maybe you saw a guy have a big day when it mattered most in a big setting that propelled maybe his draft stock a little bit. I'm trying to think. O.D. Fortune had the chance to 2 years ago against Tennessee to see Cam Smith. Make sure I don't say Cam Scott. Cam Scott's got to play on a basketball team that we need to discuss later that was not picked very high by the SEC yesterday. But Cam Smith had that huge game against Jalen Hyatt in Tennessee that a lot of people said raised his draft stock substantially. I wonder if that was kind of the mindset for OD Fortune going in, like, oh, I'm matched up on the 17-year-old that everybody's been talking about. This is my chance to really show out in front of NFL scouts and really put something on tape against a guy who's really not been shut down all year.
Well, there is something to seeing somebody that you played and practiced with every day get drafted and go to the NFL.
You mentioned the Xavier Leggett thing last year, seeing Deebo Samuel and seeing that goes, wait, those guys were my teammate.
I know that guy.
Yeah.
It's like I work out with that guy. I'm faster than him, or I'm stronger than him, or whatever the case is. He's Bo Jalen's just like me. What's the difference between him and me? I could say, I pointed back to my time, I would say maybe you think Dante Robinson watching Sheldon Brown and Andre Goodman, you watching those guys, and Dante was good, obviously, but I think when you see those guys and you're like, oh, there's a chance for somebody to be really good. And we could point to Dante's career, but one play he makes a one-handed interception against Kentucky, I believe it was, and all of a sudden his trajectory is through the roof, and he went on to have a great career. So maybe that is something to OD Fortune, seizing the opportunity when this freshman who everybody's eyes are on, and he goes out there and he plays a tremendous game against him, holds him to this point, his career low. And basically, I'm not saying he made him a non-factor, but he shut him down for sure.
Okay. So looking though more at the defense, you break down. You mentioned Kennard. Who graded the highest? Was it Kennard or Fortune? Fortune ended up with the highest grade.
Fortune ended up with the highest grade. On the backside, didn't get the production out of the interior that we would like. TJ, Tonka, Boogie, and then missing DeAndre Jules might have hurt a little bit.
I think, yeah.
All of them graded out fine at anywhere from 60 to 64, but that group, we need that to be bumped up in order for this defense to really get, even though they played well, in order for this defense to maybe take the next step, you need that group to really, really be humming, probably around 70 to 75 across the board. And then lastly, Dylan Stewart did not play well. He did not play well according to the grades. There was at no level in the run game nor the pass game. He graded out very low. Also, Debo Williams did not play well either.
What about you got individual grades there?
I do.
I think without going back and studying all 5 previous games to Saturday, I believe this was the most snaps that Nick Barrett played all season. He played 18 snaps in this game, kind of filled that role that DeAndre Jules had been playing. How did Nick Barrett grade out for a big guy in the middle?
Fine. That's about it.
Okay,
he was fine. You know, he was below the rest.
I felt like you were ready to follow.
I was, but kind of wasn't really necessary. He was below the rest of the group, and also thinking about what his role was in this game was to probably just fill in, get a guy some breather. He didn't make any plays, but he didn't necessarily hurt the team.
He is a bigger defensive lineman. That's why I asked that, because of the fact that his role is to come in there and kind of be that space eater for, in this instance, 18 plays. You look at the snap counts for the interior guys. TJ Sanders had 42. Tonka Hemingway had 29. This one's a little surprising. Alex Huntley had just 24 snaps. Nick Barrett had 18, and then the other big guy transferring there, Monkel Goodwine, had 10. But it is interesting to see Sanders at 42 snaps, Hemingway at 39, and then I would have, if we were ballparking prior, I would have guessed Huntley being up into the 30s, but at only 24 is a little surprising.
So it's one of two reasons. I don't know whether he got banged up during the game. That could be a possibility. Or the coaches saw from up top he was not playing well. And sometimes if he don't got it, he don't got it. You pull him out and you try and make some things. And that happens. People don't think about defensive linemen having it or not having it, but that could be going on throughout the day. You're not reading your blocks right, your steps slow, whatever the case is. So I don't know whether he got banged up or did they just see that maybe that wasn't his day, but he graded out very low, probably his lowest. Got to check. I'd assume that this was his lowest grade of the year. And so either something was bothering him or he just wasn't playing well.
The linebackers snap count, they rotated fairly well. Debo Williams gets 56 snaps. I believe 63 was the number of offensive snaps that Alabama had. So Debo Williams playing 56, Demetrius Knight playing 36, and Bam Martin-Scott playing 34. So not a bad rotation there. You go to the defensive backs, and I think this is really interesting. You got the trio of Eamon Quinn Worry, Fortune, and DQ Smith all playing what I believe to be every snap, 63 snaps. But then you see kind of a nice rotation, Preston, maybe, of Judge Collier with 38 snaps, Jalen Kilgore at 57, and Vakari Swain getting 25.
Yeah, and this is basically what we knew. We knew O.D. Fortune was going to be one side, and it was going to have to figure out the other side as far as cornerbacks is concerned. Feels like that's playing out. The two safeties, or working at 3-safety system with DQ Smith, Jalen Kilgore, and Nick, they all played well. In order for the defense to be elite, we need your elite player, as in Nick, to step his game up. He played fine at a 62. He probably needs to be up in the 70 to 75 clip for this defense to really, really be humming. Even though they held Alabama to their lowest point total all year, there's still room for improvement.
803-404-6100. We'll come back. We'll give some final thoughts on the grades. We'll get ready. J.C. Shurburtt in hour number 2. You're listening to Bill Gunner, Jen Jensen, Preston Thorne. It is the early game. 6:48 as we wrap up our number one. Get you ready for J.C. Shurburtt coming up in our number two. But let's get out to the phone lines now where Johnny has waited more than patiently. Johnny, I appreciate it. How you doing this morning? What's on your mind?
I'm good, brother. How y'all?
Doing good.
I think we're right where we wanted to be, man, where we thought we would be anyhow. At 3-3 coming into the season, we were hoping to go 4-1 to start the season, and we did just that. And nobody gave us a chance against LSU or Alabama. We were looking at the Ole Miss game was going to be a tough one. And the team is right where we really need to be, or we should be, in my opinion. We got a young quarterback. We got an experienced defense and young mistakes that kept us out of the LSU game and the Alabama game. And the future is looking bright for the Gamecocks as far as I can tell.
Yeah.
What do you guys think?
Well, we discussed that a little bit yesterday. I think there's two pieces to what you said. I think number one, I think the fact that South Carolina, that 3-3 is probably what a lot of people would have figured. Now, that doesn't mean you have to be happy with it now. It's kind of like Gamecock Larry said earlier. Probably could be 5-1. But 3-3 is probably exactly where most people would have had South Carolina would have signed up for if we'd have done this in August. So there's that part. So I think you are right. It's probably right where South Carolina should be. The other part is you say the future looks bright. This is what Preston and I got into yesterday, Johnny. I don't know what the future is. I don't think you can project the future anymore because of the way college football is with the transfer portal, with everything that goes on now. I think in the old age, 10 years ago, of football, I agree with you. You'd be like, man, these young guys are learning to play. We got some guys, we just mentioned Vakari Swain and Judge Collier playing a bunch of snaps that's developing them for that secondary next year. Obviously, they like Fred Johnson. I think that's a situation in which you'd be like, all right, I like our future. I don't know if you can say that in this world of college football now.
I think that's probably the big point. Also to the fact of, I agree that if somebody said before the season we'd be 3-3, you'd be like, okay. But then when you go through the season and you look at how we got to 3-3,
right,
that's what makes it a little bit more heartbreaking or a little tougher to take. Obviously, the LSU game, which was a wild affair. Then you have the absolute clunker against Ole Miss, and then this heartbreaker against Alabama. So, let's say if all those games would have just went according to Vegas, if they would have went according to the line, I think everybody would have been like, oh, okay, fine. 3-3, let's go. This is cool. But this has been an up and down roller coaster of a year, which leads me to my point. I think we know who we are.
Okay.
I think we know who we are. This team is wildly entertaining. They are a fun group to watch, and we have no idea what's going to show up from week to week.
That's the last part. No idea. Are they fun to watch?
Yeah, they are.
Defensively, they are fun to watch. Offensively, I'm kind of like, I don't know what's about to happen. I have no idea what exactly.
Fun to watch from an objective standpoint. If I didn't have any skin in the game, I think nationwide I'd be like, South Carolina's playing. Who knows what's going to happen? I'll tune in, just because of the weirdness that has happened. Now, as a fan, you need antacids to watch them, but I think nationwide people are looking like, I don't know, let's watch this South Carolina team. Who knows what's going to happen?
It's to go back to that. I'm kind of, and I actually, as I've got my computer up here in front of me, I was watching what they labeled as the highlights of the South Carolina-Alabama game, and there were certain plays that I have not yet gone back and watched, such as the onside kick there. But I think this is the word I want to use, infuriating, because you have seen good moments from South Carolina. You've also seen them just look completely inept offensively, and it's trying to figure out, because statistically speaking, they're down to, obviously they're awful, flat awful when it comes to quarterback sacks, quarterback pressures, penalties. What was it? The
STP rating.
Yes.
STP plus, the stupid rating.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And we would agree the stupid rating has them
high.
Yeah, whatever you want to go, near the worst, whatever,
high or low, whatever you want to say.
Exactly. But you've also seen them, like, it's kind of like you see them run that 16-play, 85-yard drive to start the second half against Alabama to take the lead, and you're like, oh man, we're capable of being something so much better in the second half of the season, but you've got to do it on a consistent basis. And I think fumbles aside, you're seeing in real time the development of Lenore Sellers. It just doesn't occur as fast as you would like it.
Yeah, and you seeing what the potential is that is there. And I think if you just looked across the field and you saw Jalen Milroe, I don't know whether that would make you feel positive or negative, because I would imagine if you asked Alabama how they felt about Jalen Milroe, they might be like, huh?
Jalen Milroe was getting Heisman votes coming into this week. There was people who were suggesting he was the Heisman front runner going into the week. And much like the last time South Carolina was in Tuscaloosa and Mark Ingram won the Heisman, basically, for that performance, South Carolina might have cost Jalen Milroe the Heisman with this performance. Milroe had some dumb plays.
Yeah, he was high on the STP rating. I mean, backing up and throwing the ball out of it was a play that if you would have said, you would have been like, oh, Lenore Sellers is young. That's a young player's play. But Jalen Milroe's not young. And I guess all I'm saying is, and I made the hot take yesterday, Lenore Sellers will be better than Jalen Milroe. He might even be on his way, factor in experience, better than him right now as we speak. The answer is that enough? Is that good enough? What does that necessarily mean? I don't know.
But I think, as you get through these 6 games, and that's why, as you said, we will all tune in on Saturday at 12:45, because I got no idea. That might be the team that played LSU and Alabama. It might be the team that played Mississippi and Old Dominion.
Here's what I want to come back to this. We'll come back to this later. We talked about Shane's teams being undisciplined, having a lot of penalties, but I want to make sure that we give credit to Shane. And I don't know how to do this.
Okay.
They throw out a clunker every year. They always respond, and they always play well after that game. So I don't know if that's a backhanded thing, but every year they will play a terrible game, and every year Shane will get them ready to play the next one. So he's elite at getting teams ready to play after a very poor performance.
We will roll along. J.C. Shurburtt set to join us in hour number 2. You're listening to Preston Thorne, Bill Gunner, Jen Jensen. It's the early game. Bill Gunner for Old Timey Meat Market, the official sponsor of the Gunner household. That's right. When we're getting ready to grill or fix a great dinner, getting ready to tailgate, whatever it may be, nothing starts before we visit Old Timey Meat Market. Whether it's some of those great hamburgers, delicious steaks, phenomenal chicken, or whether you want fish or pork chops, Old Timey Meat Market has got us taken care of, and I can guarantee you this, they'll take care of you as well. That's why we love Old Timey Meat Market, because it's the old style meat buying experience, just like back in the 50s and the 40s when you'd go in and your butcher knew exactly what you liked, knew your family, wanted to talk to you and make sure you were having a good day. That's what makes Old Timey Meat Market stand out. Go visit one of their 3 locations, South Congaree, St. Andrews Road in St. Andrews Road in Irma, or the Lexington store, and check out what I'm talking about. You won't find better prices anywhere else, and you absolutely won't find any better cuts of meat. Visit Old Timey Meat Market today. Tell them Bill Gunner sent you.
We have a report of a disabled vehicle, I-77 northbound there at Blythewood Road, exit 27, and I-77 southbound at exit 2. No major slowdowns to speak of as of right now. Hope it stays that way for you as we go into your Tuesday. 71 for the high today, overnight low of 45. Tomorrow and Thursday, a high of about 64 with those overnight lows around 39. So definitely wanting to bundle up this week as you're heading out for work or school or whatever you may be up to. And we're looking at 46 currently on the early game.
Up and at 'em. I know for a lot of you kids, parents are getting you back to school this morning after, at least for my kids, it was a 4-day weekend, but I think a lot of people had yesterday off and back into rhythm this morning on a Tuesday, October the 15th, 7 a.m. We're here in the Midlands. If you've listened to Jen give her weather report, a little chilly. A little chilly. I had to actually here in our Antarctic studio that we have each and every morning, I actually had my hoodie up and on here to try and stay warm. So hopefully you stay warm out there as well today as temperatures changing. A little more fall-like. And tell you what, one thing we haven't discussed, maybe we got to put on the rundown, just a segment or two, some fall fair weather with fall fair food.
Yeah, man. Somehow, I don't know whether it's because we don't have a game this week or what, a home game. I'm not sure what's going on, but the fair seems to have slipped in and out of town very quietly this year.
Very true.
Yeah.
Very true.
Still rolling. We did go day one, and you can. It's cool. I do like the idea. If you're not looking to take kids, you can actually go there just for lunch.
Oh,
you
nice.
Get food, and so like you turn in, you get a little something or other. You pay like $20. They give you a little voucher, and as long as you leave by like 2, you get your 20 back. So
Nice.
it's like you can just go and experience, grab some fair food, and make your way out.
There you go. There you go.
That feels like the matinee type of style, matinee movie of the fair. I like that.
Yeah,
Go in,
it's kind of a nice idea.
Get your fair food, get ready for a nap, go back to the office, tell the boss you're not sure what you're going to do. You just hide under your desk and take a quick nap.
Like
I
that.
totally understand. So anyway, we roll along here. And joining us now, as he does each and every Tuesday morning, thebigspur.com's on JC Shurburtt. And JC, I had the family down there, Lauren, the kids, for their first trip to Tuscaloosa. It was everything that you would want it to be except for the game itself, which didn't quite turn out the way we wanted it.
Yeah, tough game. Heck of a game, though. Good football game. We've had a lot of those this year in college football. I saw a picture on social media of you and the lady, and look good. You're looking good, man.
Appreciate it.
So,
wore a new shirt. I'm not sure if the new shirt was lucky or not lucky. I'm undecided on that right now. I might have to run that shirt back again.
Yeah, I don't know, about all that. Jamie Bradford last Friday went without a hat on our show and wore a half collar for good luck, and obviously it didn't work. So he's back to the hat, and so we tend to do things like that. But yeah, it was a heck of a football game. Certainly one where South Carolina had its chances, and just at the end, too many mistakes to expect to pull that off against a team like Alabama.
So let's go big picture for a second on this. Everything that you thought maybe in July and August now as we hit the halfway point of the season, 6 games in the books, 3-3. What do you think you were right on? What do you think you were wrong on now that you've had a chance to really watch this team?
Well, I thought my whole takeaway was I thought this team had a lot more talent than people were giving it credit for. I don't know that I expected Kyle Kennard to be arguably the best defensive end in college football right now. He's really good. I thought the receivers would be better than people were giving them credit for, and I think that's slowly but surely playing out on Saturday. They had their best game, I think, of the year. Probably thought Lenore Sellers would not be as mistake-prone as maybe he has been, or the quarterbacks in general. I didn't really expect the quarterbacks to lose a fumble in every single game through 6 games. Probably expected the offensive line to play a little better, blocking in general, offense in general. But the defense has sort of surpassed my expectations. I think I think we all thought they were going to be pretty good. Alabama, Ole Miss, LSU, they're all 3 of the best offensive teams in the sport right now. South Carolina more than held their own, especially Saturday. I mean, Carolina's defense played really, really well against a team that's got a bunch of future NFL guys on offense, including the line. And so that was very encouraging. So I think it's safe to say, based on their body of work, they're one of the best defenses in the league and in the sport this year, because it kind of goes in that direction. So, maybe thought, I don't know. I want to say the tight ends have played pretty well. I mean, I don't know. I don't want to be like that guy and talk about the usage of the tight ends, because every program in the country talks about that. So I won't go there. But, I think there's been some things that have been better than I expected or worse. But big picture-wise, I knew this team had players. I knew it had talent. I knew that the schedule was tough. And the thing I said all season is other teams got players too and coaches too. And it's not going to be easy, but what you want to do is go out there and compete and win your share. And I don't know that the Gamecocks have necessarily won their share through 6, but there's an opportunity here on the back stretch to win more than their share. So we'll see what happens.
Preston, I'll ask you the same thing. We've done our grades each and every week. We did them this morning, and so we kind of pay attention to what it looks like each and every week. You go back to what you thought in July and August, or you're trying to figure out what do you think you've been right on and what you've been kind of wrong on, or out of what you expected?
I believe the defense has lived up to a lot of the hyperbole they were talking before the season. The donuts and historic. The numbers don't necessarily support that. But this defense has proven that they can give us a chance to win any game that they line up in. And when I say given a chance, because I honestly don't believe they were given a chance against Ole Miss.
I'm going to read this text. Again, we're kind of doing big picture here, and I'm interested to hear, Preston, I'll start with you. This comes in from the texter and says, Judge Collier and Vakari Swain are promising if we can keep that duo together, and the same with Nick Harbor and Mazio Bennett. We need to win 1 or 2. We're not supposed to, but let's think about that for a second. We've kind of stayed away from talking about the future, but I go back to it. Collier and Vakari Swain do seem like a tandem that you can be excited about, and on the flip side of that, I do think we're actually seeing – I'm maybe a little surprised because I had 0 expectations, but I think we are seeing a little bit of development with Nick Harbor, and then, of course, what you're definitely seeing with Mazio Bennett.
Yeah, there's some possibilities there for sure, and then those guys seem like they're all locked in for various reasons. Obviously, the future, we don't know what the future holds, but if it was to hold true, again, I like wide receivers to have different body styles. So now you have a big guy, now you have a guy Mazio he's a fast and a little bit more shifty guy, and then you add in all those pieces. Yeah, that does look very positive for the future.
JC, let's ask you about Nick Harbor there when we talk about those 4 players in particular. You mentioned it. I don't know if we're giving Mike Furry enough credit for what he's done. You mentioned maybe the wide receiver's best game, and I agree. Your thoughts on that wide receiver group, and in particular Nick Harbor, and what you saw from him Saturday?
The hope is that catch. That was a really good catch and really good. He kind of turned around when the ball was in the air and almost shielded the D-back off. I think the Bama defensive back lost the ball a little bit, and then boom, it comes in and he drags his foot and it's a touchdown. Live, it looked like a touchdown to me. I thought he dragged his foot, but they called it and they overturned it. And the hope is that gets him going. I mean, look, if Nick Harbor is just an outside possession receiver right now, because I know we all want to talk about the speed and all that good stuff, that's fine. I mean, I still think people need to temper expectations, but the more he makes plays in games like that, and he catches just about everything when he's playing in a football game. and so that's job number one. He did it last year. So, the other stuff can come along. And so you just hope that gets him going. I think Vendravius Jacobs played a good game. Bennett played a good game. Gage Larvadan is showing why he was the best receiver in the spring. He's healthy now and playing kind of like the player we thought. And, they didn't even have Jared Brown, who was probably at the top heading into the season on Saturday. So, yeah, I think Mike Fury deserves a lot of credit and a lot of credit for what he's doing in recruiting. That room's is more and more promising as time goes on. So I think that's good. And then you mentioned the corners. Judge Collier's played like a future pro the last 2 weeks. I mean, I don't know if maybe that ball that went over his head against Akron made him mad or something, but he's played lights out. I think he's been really good. Fortune's playing well, and then we all know Swain's got a lot of talent. So that secondary just keeps on keeping on. And I do want to give them credit because there's a lot of talk about the front seven at Carolina. But Saturday, man, the secondary played its butt off. I mean, you don't just hold Ryan Williams to 4 catches for 32 yards and not have coverage ability. Jelani Kilgore specifically has gotten so much better in that department. I mean, teams are almost not wanting to throw his direction. And what a play there at the end of the first half. So I can't say enough good about the entire defense, but the secondary, that's something we don't always talk about. So it was a good text, especially when you look at the youth of Collier and a Swain, and they continue to recruit well there. So it's going to be a position of strength, you hope, moving forward.
803-404-6100 if you want to text in. We'll get to a few of these here, including comparing the first 4 SEC games. I think that's a good question. We'll get into this. Comparing the first 4 SEC games, Kentucky, LSU, Mississippi, and Alabama, to the final 4, which is Oklahoma, A&M, Missouri, and Vanderbilt. That's a good question, and we'll get into a little bit of that and talk about these next 6 games with J.C. Shurburtt. You're listening to Preston Thorne, Jen Jensen, Bill Gunner, and again, Tuesday morning, joined by thebigspur.com's J.C. Shurburtt. It's the early game. Bill Gunner for Zerorez Carpet and Air Duct Cleaning. With Zerorez's ZR Water technology, it is guaranteed to keep the carpets, the rugs, the upholstery, the tile, all looking insanely clean, and it does not leave behind any sticky, soapy residue. So this Halloween, you planning on maybe having a Halloween party, you want to make sure the house itself is not scary. Maybe you want to put up some nice decorations, but the house, the carpets, the rugs, you don't want those to be scary. Call Zerorez today and take advantage of their spooktacular deal. Get 3 rooms of carpet clean for just $129 when you mention me, Bill Gunner, at 107.5 The Game. That's 803-262-4020, or you can book online, ZerorezColumbia.com. Again, 803-262-4020. Mention me, Bill Gunner, at 107.5 The Game, and get 3 rooms of carpet clean for just $129. Zerorez, spell it backwards or forwards. It's the right way to clean.
As far as your traffic is concerned, or the traffic conditions out there, we're not really seeing too much except for I-77 at Highway 21. So that would be exit 24 on I-77. Get more details about that here in a bit. But 71 is really where we're going to top out at today with a lot of sunshine. Tomorrow and Thursday, 64 and 65 respectively, with the overnight lows of 39. So a chillier start to your morning throughout this week, and that includes today, where it is currently 46 on 107.5 The Game.
Reminder, coming up Saturday, we'll get you going bright and early, 7:30 a.m. pregame show. And then coming up at 12:30, we'll have our kickoff for South Carolina and Oklahoma. And you can always swing by O'Hara's Public House on Main Street in Lexington for the Gamecocks and Oklahoma's viewing party. Come on over and hang out with our group, O'Hara's Public House, Main Street in Lexington. That'll take place at about 12:30 starting on Saturday. 803-404-6100 if you want to text in. And let's do this because I'm interested on y'all's take on this. I think this is a good take, JC, because Preston and I kind of talked about it. We had a caller at the end of the last hour who said we're right where we want to be, 3-3. And you know what? I think if South Carolina fans had been polled at the beginning of August and said, "Hey, you're going to Oklahoma to wrap up your month of October and you're 3-3 overall. Do you take it?" I think the overwhelming majority would have said yes. Now, unfortunately, you've watched the games play out, and you're kind of like, "Oh man, this is kind of disappointing." But let's compare those first 4 SEC games: Kentucky, LSU, Mississippi, and Alabama, against the last 4, starting this weekend: Oklahoma, Texas A&M, Missouri, and Vanderbilt. JC, your take on those first 4 versus the back 4 for the Gamecocks?
I don't know that it gets any easier. I certainly think that when you look at Oklahoma, South Carolina, I mean, LSU, Ole Miss, Alabama, those teams are a different level offensively than, LSU, Ole Miss, Alabama. Those teams are going to get their points. It doesn't matter how good you are on defense these days. It's just one of those things where you just got to hold them down. And I think the Gamecocks played well enough defensively. A few exceptions in the LSU game, but Nussmeier was a hero in that one. And I think we're starting to see him kind of become that heroic type quarterback. I mean, he had a terrible game against Ole Miss and still led them to victory. But, I don't, just looking, Vanderbilt's very problematic. Clemson certainly is scoring a lot of points right now. Missouri's got players. I mean, we'll see how healthy Luther Burden is. He kind of took a shot last week. I think he'll be fine. I don't know what to make of A&M, but certainly their offense gets better and better. Their team gets better and better. So, yeah, in Oklahoma, they're really struggling on offense. And it's not one of those things that they necessarily can be fixed, but they've had some receivers out. Their top 5 receivers have been out with injury. I think some of them will be back this weekend. But they've got offensive line problems, like bad. Everybody just assumed all summer they were just going to go, get 5 guys from the portal to replace the 5 they lost. And, I was like, well, they're going to do that and go into the SEC at the same time. But they're a scrappy bunch. I mean, Auburn rolled up 500 yards of total offense almost against them and lost the football game because they turned the ball over and played sloppy. So, that's going to be a tough game, too, going out there against another team that's desperate for a win. So I don't necessarily think it gets any easier. I think some of the matchups are a little bit better for South Carolina, especially defensively. But, you're not going to win very many games, if you continue some of the sloppiness, the turnovers, the plays that cause you to lose momentum in a football game. Now, the good news about that is it can be clean. That can be cleaned up. That's something that teams sort of go in phases on. And hopefully it doesn't last for the duration of the season. But I just don't know that you look at it and go, oh, man, this is the schedule kind of lightens up, although you do like to have those 2 home games with A&M and Missouri in November.
Preston, now that you've kind of analyzed the first 4 against the last 4, you first want to make an apology again?
Yeah, I was talking a lot of big trash about early in the season about one Garrett Sussmeyer. He's not sus at all. He's very good. I'm sorry, Garrett. I apologize for what I said on this radio station. But moving forward, though, JC, you're right. I unfortunately watched that whole game of Auburn, Oklahoma.
Oh.
I don't know why. I watched the whole game, and Oklahoma should have lost that game. And you said a key point. You said Auburn ran up all of those offensive yards except for the fact that they had penalties and turnovers. Well, JC, South Carolina is prone to penalties and turnovers. So how do you think that bodes for this week's game against Oklahoma?
Yeah, clean up on aisle 7. It's the 7th game of the season, so clean up on aisle 7. You just got to clean it up and play cleaner football. I mean, I think Shane Beamer and everybody else would tell you that. I mean, it makes it that much more difficult when you go and fumble and throw interceptions and miss field goals and things like that. And I'm not really talking about the 51-yarder. More about the Ole Miss game, first drive of the second half, you go down there and you miss it. And those types of things suck momentum away from your football team on all sides of the ball. And it's demoralizing. Most coaches will say that. So that stuff has to get better. I think the offense in general needs to continue to take a step forward. And, my hope is that Lenore Sellers has a really good game Saturday just because – we don't necessarily know. You look at the Ole Miss game, you look at the ODU game. Those were 2 stinkers. I think other than that, the offense has played fine. But you look at those games, and other than the sloppiness, of course, and it's like, well, that was his first start, and then he sat for a game and a half. So you wonder if maybe he's got to kind of get back into it. I mean, Preston, this, the best way to get better at football is to play in football games. And so now, you've had him for the whole Ole Miss game. You've had him for the whole Alabama game. This is kind of the game 3. It's kind of uncharted waters for him because he had to sit. So I think that this is one that, you hope he goes and has a really good game Saturday because he's got talent. I mean, and he may have had some costly plays Saturday, but South Carolina's not even in the game if he doesn't make plays. So it's kind of both ways. So you kind of hope he does, and the whole offense kind of, comes on Saturday. It's not going to be easy. Oklahoma's got a good defense, but, and cut down on the mistakes. And then I think you can feel good about moving forward, because you continue to progress. And unfortunately, I thought the LSU game, the offense really came into its own, and then boom, Sellers gets hurt and has to go out. So that kind of threw a wrench into things. So you hope that he does well Saturday.
Couple statistics that I'm looking at, SEC statistics. I'm going to throw these 2 at you real quick. We have talked about Oklahoma's defense. South Carolina comes into this game in the SEC 6th in the SEC in total defense yards given up. The Gamecocks are allowing just 299.5 yards per game. Texas, Tennessee, Kentucky, Missouri, and Mississippi are the 5 in front of them. We've talked about Oklahoma's defense. Oklahoma's defense is actually 11th in the league, giving up 337 yards per game. That surprised you, JC, that South Carolina is that far ahead of them and that Oklahoma is that far down?
No, not really. Like I said, they've given up yards. I mean, and they did have to play Texas this past weekend, but Auburn, I don't think anybody's confusing them with a juggernaut on offense. Like I said, Thorne threw for 338 yards, and they rushed for $150. Tennessee, in that game, I think the Oklahoma defense kind of got a lot of run because, oh my goodness, they held Tennessee to 25. Well, Tennessee hadn't scored more than that in a SEC game. It shows you the unpredictable nature of everything. Everybody's thinking, Well, they scored 71 on Kent, who's awful, and NC State's awful, and Chattanooga's an FCS team, and so they think the Vols have this explosive offense. They don't. They're more of a running football team. You can ask the Gators and the Razorbacks about that. So, in Tennessee, in that football game, they kicked a lot of field goals but had a lot of yards. So, this is not some unpenetrable force, but defenses play better at home, and South Carolina's had a lot of issues. So the key for Oklahoma is going to be, can South Carolina continue to have issues, and can you take advantage of them on Saturday and help that offense out? Because they're 125th in the country. You look at their results this year, it hasn't really mattered who they played. I mean, they put 51 on Temple in the opener, but only had 370 yards. So they're not driving the ball. They got a true freshman quarterback that can make plays and played a really good game against Auburn. But this is not the Oklahoma offense that we've been used to seeing in college football the last 20 years.
I've heard enough. We need to treat this game like Vandy. Get Oklahoma out of here. They are not very good. We are better than them. This game should be a must-win if we want to continue this season. I've heard enough. 120. What did we say we were? They were offensively, JC?
125th.
125th. Get them out of here. 11th in SEC in defense. This team is not very good. Get this team out of here. The way you felt about Vandy prior to this season, fans need to feel about Oklahoma going into this game. They are not good. We need to dispose of them early, often. Walk into Norman. Get them out of here. They got a head coach whose seat should be heating up. Tired of it. We're not playing Jamel Holloway. Barry Switzer's not walking on the field. Get them out of here. We need to go out here and dominate this game.
Here's what I take from that. We got to have two different sounders. That was our sounder for Sporty Sports Talk. We need like a fire sounder or firecrackers for when it's a hot take. Like it's an extreme.
I don't think it's a hot take. It's not a hot take. There we go.
Okay, all right.
What's a hot take about beating the 125th offensive team in the nation? That's not a hot take. They're not good.
I'm going to give you guys, when we come back, I'm going to give you guys an interesting.
11th in the SEC.
I'm going to give you guys an interesting offensive statistic that kind of blows my mind, and I don't know what to make, or if it's just completely meaningless. So, JC, Preston, when we come back, I'm going to give you a statistic, and I want to know if it's meaningless or meaningful.
Baker Mayfield's not playing quarterback for them.
It's an offensive statistic I'm going to give you on the Gamecocks. We'll come back. And Preston's got more hot takes, JC. Don't go anywhere. You're listening to the early game. Bill Gunner for AAA Heating and Air. Roy and Dana Finley, the company over there, absolutely phenomenal. Great family to work for. And right now, they are looking to hire some new techs. Also, maybe some residential electrician troubleshooters. So if you know how to do either of these, it's time for you to get in touch with AAA Heating and Air. They pay the highest in the industry. They have a comprehensive benefits package, including a 401k, insurance, and more. But that's not all. You can have a take-home truck with electric inventory management. So call AAA Heating and Air today, 803-677-1500. If you're looking for a great line of work, a great family to work for, steady income, AAA Heating and Air is exactly who you want to work for. Call again today, 803-677-1500. Again, they are looking for new residential electrician troubleshooters and techs. So call AAA Heating and Air today and apply for a job with Roy and Dana Finley.
And out there on the highways, we see an accident, Faro Road at Park Lane Road, and also I-77 at Highway 21. That would be exit 24, an accident there. Just getting verification as to whether it's north or southbound. But as far as your forecast goes, it's going to be chilly this week. Definitely a little bit cooler. 71 for the high today with an overnight low of 45. Tomorrow and Thursday will be in the mid-60s, and the overnight lows around 39. So going to be bundling up for the next few mornings. Still holding steady at 46 under fair skies on the early game.
Reminder coming up today, 1 o'clock, the Shane Beamer press conference. Right here, 107.5 The Game, 100.3 The Game in Myrtle Beach is how you can listen and hear what Coach Beamer's got to say. And Preston might have sped up our timeline. I was thinking maybe we needed to go through one more hour tomorrow morning, 6 a.m. to 7 a.m., to kind of put that Alabama game to bed. I'm now thinking that when we wrap this program at 9 a.m., Alabama game goes to bed. Preston has now made the hot take. I'm going hot take on that this is equivalent to a pre-Vanderbilt 2024 game.
Who you thought Vanderbilt was, Oklahoma is.
Let me ask you this. I don't know what to do with this stat, and as I said going into the break, it might be meaningful and it might be meaningless. But I think there's something to it. I'm just not sure what it is. South Carolina. Let me start with this. JC, how would you grade? Just give me a letter grade. How would you grade the South Carolina offense so far this season?
Oh, probably about a C plus. You know, I mean, there's 4 C, not C, maybe.
Don't do it, JC.
Games.
You said C plus. Don't.
Yeah, hold on. Stick with that.
All right, 4 of the 6 games have been fine offensively. I think. I mean, the mistakes have hurt, but as far as there's been some offenses around here that don't have a chance. I mean, these guys have a chance. And they played well enough to beat Alabama, and they played well enough to beat LSU if they didn't shoot themselves in the foot. I mean, the ODU game was bad, and of course, Ole Miss was bad, but the other 4 have been fine. I think as far as just the offense, obviously mistakes are a different animal.
Okay. Preston wrote down C plus also. It's both of y'all going C plus. South Carolina is 13th in the league in average yards per game. Oklahoma worse. Oklahoma the dead last, 287 yards.
Ding.
South Carolina's averaging 362.3 yards per game. That's good for 13th in the league. But here's something, and I think there's a point to this, and this is where I'm going. If I had to ask you, top half, and I'm kind of setting myself up, you're going to know the answer, top half or bottom half of the league in offensive plays run, where would you think South Carolina would be at? JC?
Top half, I would think, because they've had some games they've run a bunch of plays.
I think the same thing. Yeah, top half.
They are. South Carolina is 5th in the league in the number of plays run this year. And I say that because, Preston, we went into I'm just scrolling SEC stats right now, and we talk about this offense and efficiency. Here's what that tells me, and I think this is interesting. South Carolina's offense is too much dink and dunk. You've got to get more explosive plays for you to be in the top half of the league. Mississippi's number 1 in plays run. Arkansas's 2. Tennessee's 3. And Missouri's 4. And when you think about Kiffin, Heupel, and Drinkowitz, that's 3 offensive minds right there. Arkansas, I'm a little surprised. Arkansas is 2nd in plays run this year.
Bobby Petrino's
true.
Those plays, Bill.
That's a good point. I didn't think about that, JC. Mm-hmm. And South Carolina's 5th in that. But what I feel like that tells me is South Carolina's getting a lot of plays. They're not getting the explosive plays they need to make this offense go to another level. Preston, I'll start with you on that thought.
Okay, so you can have explosives by either calling a deep ball, calling something that's going to be an explosive play, or you can have a player make a play And the explosives that we have had this year up until that Alabama game have really only been through players making a play, i.e. Rocket Sanders, Lenore Sellers. I'm thinking of the LSU game specifically. But there haven't been a lot of attempts for explosives downfield. So I think when you look at it, if you was to have all the statistics in front of you, I would say that a majority of our explosives have come from a guy making somebody miss, which that is part of the game, but they haven't come from throwing the ball downfield up until the Nick Harbor and Mazio against Alabama.
JC, your thoughts?
I think it's those two games coming back to haunt them a little bit. Ole Miss was Ole Miss and ODU were very similar. I mean, as far as short passes and things of that nature, I think they missed some downfield, and it just didn't seem like they. I guess it was because of the way Ole Miss was playing defense. They didn't take many shots. But I think this offense is its best passing game wise when Sellers gets out of the pocket and can create. And I thought it was very encouraging the 2 touchdowns he threw. He throws a really good long ball. I mean, that's kind of his ball, and they have speed at receiver. So there's really no reason why they can't take some shots. I think the protection breaking down has a lot to do with it. As far as the number of plays, I mean, look, the red zone's been an issue for 2 years. They've got to get – and they were Saturday, I thought, to a certain – they didn't drive down inside the 10 and then come away with no points. So maybe that's getting better. But, I think that's interesting because it seems like they are staying on the field. They are running a lot of plays. It's just not been productive, and the yards per play is not there. A lot of that, though, Bill, too, is lost yardage plays. South Carolina gave up 4 more sacks and 7 tackles for loss. Carolina's defense actually had more tackles for loss than Alabama's, which was a good sign for that side of the ball. But when you have those lost yardage plays, I mean, it's going to, it takes that average down, right? Again, it's about cleaning it up, I think, and there's good news there. I mean, the good news is they are running, that many plays. They're not getting, they're getting off the field defensively. That tells me that. So that's positive. You can win games that way, but it's just been mistakes and those lost yardage plays, breakdowns at inopportune times that's kind of hamstrung it. So what you hope for is a good second half. You clean all that up. South Carolina could win every game left on the schedule. They could also lose 5 of them. It's just a matter of what kind of progress they make on that side of the ball. Can they stay healthy? And can the defense continue to play at a high level, which they've answered that question through the first half of the season. They haven't had a bad game. You almost wonder if you're kind of waiting on it. But I don't know that group's going to have a bad one. So there is a lot to be encouraged about. But, when you're sitting there with 3 losses and 2 tough ones like LSU and Bama, you don't really have that much margin for error where you can just go drop another game. Everything's going to be fine. You can turn it around later. I mean, it has to start Saturday.
Your thoughts, Preston?
The thing that JC just said is that, sort of in that baseball mentality of waiting for the other shoe to drop for the defense, but I don't think it will be injuries removed. If everybody stays healthy, having those defensive ends being able to put pressure on quarterbacks gives you a chance in every game.
803-404-6100. We'll come back here. We'll wrap up this hour. We'll get JC's big picture thoughts on college football. A wild weekend that saw a ton of great games. We will get some of JC's thoughts and, of course, look ahead a little bit more to Oklahoma. You're listening to The Early Game. Bill Gunner for Mid-State Roofing, where for nearly 30 years, Larry Leitner and the family, they have been the leader in the roofing and waterproofing industry, and it's that proven history that is your assurance that their professionals will provide proper advice, service, and results to the needs of your facility. So whether you're here in Columbia, Florence, Myrtle Beach, and you've noticed roof damage either to your home or to your business, it's time to call Mid-State Roofing, where, again, they will help you 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Either an on-call technician or a Mid-State Roofing employee will take your phone call and help protect that roof with a maintenance contract. Phone number to give them a call, 803-356-1919. Again, that's 803-356-1919. You can contact Mid-State Roofing that way or visit them on the web, midstateroofing.com. Again, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. They are ready to help you. So if you've got a leak, let Mid-State Roofing take a peek. Bill Gunner for the Ecton Law Firm. John Ecton and his team have been dealing with the IRS for a long time. They know how to handle situations and get you out of the IRS maze. So if you have received one of those nasty notices from the IRS, it's time to contact John Ecton and his team. And whether you're here in Columbia, whether you're in Florence, whether you're in Myrtle Beach, they are ready to help you get out of the stress that the IRS can cause. So don't hesitate. It all starts with a free consultation. You just need to give them a phone call, speak with them, see what they can do for you. It starts with that free consultation, 803-771-9800. Again, that's 803-771-9800. Time is limited, but the Ecton Law Firm is ready to offer you the peace of mind you deserve. Call today or visit them on the web, ectonlawfirm.com, or again, make that phone call, 803-771-9800. Wrapping up hour number 2 here with J.C. Shurburtt. Yeah, make sure you go and check out. He has got his VIP thoughts there from the game on thebigspur.com. You can also go and check out their VIP room that was put up last night. A lot of big things going on. We do need to get into a little bit of basketball later on. South Carolina did pick up a basketball commitment yesterday. They also did not get, I don't want to say a favorable, how would you guys label this? They're picked near the bottom of the SEC. I was going to say a favorable selection, but I'm not sure that's exactly how you would label it. But they were picked 11th in the 16-team SEC conference after last year. I can't say I'm shocked by that. Preston, we'll get into that more maybe coming up in the next hour tomorrow. But your thoughts?
It's an improvement from last year.
Okay, good. JC, your thoughts on that?
I don't care.
Wow, I didn't think you could outdo Preston with that, and you more than hammered it. That was
as much as the football preseason polls now are based more on hype and brand. Basketball's been that way for years. Nobody knows. Texas Tech played for a national championship a few years back, 2019, and they were picked 7th out of 10 in the Big 12. They just look at the stats and who's coming back, and then it comes down to, like, well, who's usually good? And you know, so there you go. You know, we can't put Kentucky 11th. No. Oh, we can't put this team. Oh, Texas, we can't. They're Texas. We can't put them near the bottom. You know, poor Oklahoma. They're 15th.
Yeah.
And a lot of it's just based on last season and who you lost, and you know, nobody knows anything about Arden Conyers. Nobody's given Cam Scott. I mean, it's the same story as last season. At least you're not dead last, but I expect Lamont Paris to use it and for the Gamecocks to go out and do their best and let the chips fall where they may, just like last season.
Let's go to big picture football here with you for a minute. And getting out of that Alabama-South Carolina game, wild weekend. Oregon-Ohio State was phenomenal. Penn State-Southern Cal was an awesome game. You even had Vanderbilt getting to 4-2, knocking off Kentucky. No idea what to make of Kentucky right now. You've got Clemson kind of rolling along. This sets up for Georgia-Texas this weekend, Tennessee-Alabama. Your right now big picture thoughts on the college football world going to last weekend and looking ahead to this weekend?
Don't assume anything. You know, it's crazy because I thought that, like, you know, the 12th of October, people have been talking about that since the off season, but at least in the SEC, this weekend's much more intriguing than last weekend. I think just you know, the fact, how is Auburn going to react after a week off, going out to Missouri, who essentially had a week off going to UMass, and you know, that's Oklahoma, South Carolina is very interesting. You know, you got Kentucky and Florida, kind of like a survivor weekend. And then, Tennessee plays Alabama in Knoxville, and that's third Saturday in October. It's always interesting, you know. So I think that's the thing. Don't assume. You know, we all make predictions and picks, but you know, I think that it's just best to. Yeah, make your picks, make your predictions, but you know, don't be surprised if the whole country's wrong about things.
We got into that a little bit, and you know, we're almost out of time with you. But Preston and I've talked about that with trying to figure out football teams in this new transfer portal era and trying to put all these teams together, and it's really different nowadays. I mean, I'm just going through here. We mentioned earlier, Preston, I think about fell out of his seat when I mentioned earlier that Iowa State is 6-0. Matt Campbell one time was a hot commodity, then was not a hot commodity. Now it's probably a hot commodity again. I don't know. Notre Dame's 5-1. They're still hanging around. They've got that only loss to Northern Illinois. They're still hanging around. BYU, you mentioned them, 6-0. BYU 6-0. Indiana, who had Kirk Cignetti and the Hoosiers, 6-0 at this point in time. It's just neat things like that. It's so far through halfway, JC. It's been a really interesting season where it feels like we're only focusing on about the top 5 or 6 teams when we have a 12-team playoff now.
Yeah, that's just I mean, look at some of the geniuses that want to give the top 8 teams permanent money and create a super league with relegation. Yeah, come on, man. That's dirty in college football. You know, so I've kind of learned for the past 7 years to just tune the quote-unquote experts and national media out. If they have a news story, great. We'll read that. Some of them do a great job of reporting news, but a lot of it's just hot air, and I'm not saying, and I know I give my opinions, and I'm probably including myself in that. You just don't know, and there's not a lot of common sense that I can see being used out there when they hype different teams and players and things like that. All the changes in the sport have affected the way it gets covered, because you really can't go on the old school way. My concern is for the sport is the committee, which is full of a lot of old school people, is going to select the field in an old school manner, and that's going to cause some problems.
Real quick here, final thoughts on this weekend on the Oklahoma game and what South Carolina has to do.
Just don't go out there and make a bunch of mistakes, or you're going to get beat. I mean, Oklahoma's reeling right now. This isn't like Ole Miss that lost a surprising game or Bama that got shocked. This is a team that played their rival and got, beaten pretty good. There's going to be some motivation, but if South Carolina can go out there, get some stops, make a big play early, get a lead, and make them play from behind, which increases your chance to get turnovers and things like that, they could be successful. You go out there and you fumble and they get a scoop and score, pick six, something like that early, and they're going to be in a dogfight. So
we always appreciate it, big fella. Look forward to catching up with you next week.
Appreciate it, guys. Y'all have a good one.
Appreciate it.
Take care. JC Shurburtt of thebigspur.com. We'll come back. We got Preston just a little worked up in the previous hour. We may turn him completely loose.
Just give me the numbers and I'm ready to go.
He's working on something, and he's got a hot take on Oklahoma. We'll get into all of that. You're listening to the early game. Bill Gunner for Dr. Dan Balknight and the Men's Clinic. Listen, guys, sometimes we in life tend to push our health off. When you're suffering, as we get older, I should say, as we get older, things start to happen. We're aging. It's just part of the process. Maybe you're losing hair and you're not sure why. Maybe you're not recovering from workouts as fast as you used to. Maybe you're gaining weight, and again, you're not real sure what's going on. It's part of the aging process, and it's not something, though, you should just slug off, push off, and not worry about. You need to call Dr. Dan Balknight. And the big thing about the Men's Clinic over on St. Andrews Road is that it is a comfortable environment, a safe environment for you to talk about health issues that maybe you're a little uncomfortable with. So call today and get a free consultation. 803-875-MENS. Again, that's 803-875-MENS. You can visit them on the web for more information, themensclinicsc.com. But let me tell you, as a person who's now over 40 myself, you start to notice things are changing a little bit. You're not quite as spry, if you will, as you used to be. It's okay, but you need to get it checked out. Call the Men's Clinic. Schedule an appointment, 803-875-MENS.
And looking at those traffic conditions out there this morning on the highways, things have been moving along fairly well, not a whole host of accidents. We do have Trotter Road at Garner's Ferry to report, and I-77 at Highway 21, which would be exit 24. Fish Hatchery Road near Pine Ridge Drive has just come in, and Faro at Park Lane. So be careful if you would, please. And we're looking for high today of only about 71. And it's overnight low of really getting down to about 45. Tomorrow and Thursday, it's going to be a little bit cooler yet. 64 and 65 with overnight lows of 39, 46 right now.
Up and at 'em, 8 a.m. on your Wednesday. Why do I think it's Wednesday? It's a lot more. It's a lot more fun when you're just having a good week and you're rolling through and you just feel great. But it's only Tuesday. It's only Tuesday, which is going to mean it's going to be a long week by Thursday when I'm all confused.
For sure.
But Tuesday morning here, and a reminder, because it's Tuesday, we will get the Shane Beamer press conference later on today, 1 o'clock. You can hear it right here on 107.5 The Game, 100.3 The Game in Myrtle Beach. Covered a lot of stuff this morning. Big thank you, as always, to J.C. Shurburtt for joining us here and kind of continuing to break down. We'll put the Alabama game behind us here this hour. This will be it. If you've got thoughts, you got opinions, you want to weigh in on the Alabama game, give us a call. Hit us up on the text line, 803-404-6100, and we will turn our attention first thing in the morning to Oklahoma. Preston Thorne is ready for a scorching hot take very early in the morning, and we will get to that and turn our attention to the Sooners coming up tomorrow morning. But we'll spend this final hour. We'll look at some college football. We'll do our own Fraud Detector 3000 coming up here in just a second. We'll get into a lot of that. Last night, you had some baseball yesterday, Preston Thorne. I don't think we got into this in hour number one, but yesterday, playoff series, the NL and ALCS taking place. Mets rev it back up 7-3 over the Dodgers yesterday to tie that series 1-1.
Yeah, my Dodgers, we lost. We were trying to take that home field advantage from them, but we're coming back to the friendly. I don't think it's the friendly confines. Chavez Ravine. We're going back to our stadium, so we'll be ready to go.
So actually, they go to New York now. Go to New York. So,
oops.
Yeah, it's all right. It's all right. We know the Dodgers have a
Shea Stadium. Citi Field.
Yeah. Also last night, Cleveland and New York got their series underway. Yankees win that 5-2. Today, or tonight, I should say, 7:38 first pitch. Garrett Cole will be on the mound against Tanner Bibby for the Indians. It's the playoffs. They're the Indians. They can be the Guardians during the regular season.
Yeah, the Yankees are very boring. I mean, Aaron Judge is great. He hits a lot of home runs, but I mean, they're just. Jazz Chisholm's there. He was a lot of fun even when the Marlins were terrible.
He's been brought into the Yankee culture.
And now he's boring.
They put Derek Jeter on him.
Made him shave his head and now shave his face and he's boring again. I don't know what's – yeah, I'm not into that. Not into that series at all.
7:38 tonight. Again, I know they're the Guardians, but it's the playoffs. They don't get to be the Guardians in the playoffs. They're the Indians at the Yankees. And tomorrow night, Dodgers at New York there. Walker Buehler on the mound against Luis Severino. Also last night, it was the debut of Aaron Rodgers' coaching career. All right, he wasn't actually officially the head coach, Preston Thorne, but I don't know if any of us were buying in that anybody else was running that organization besides Aaron Rodgers last night.
Yeah, no. If you watch that game, you could see the difference between a quarterback who's at the end of his run and a quarterback who is coming into his prime. I saw Josh Allen make a very stupid play, go backwards into the end zone while almost being sacked, and then launch the ball 50 yards in the air to be complete. And that's something that he can do. Meanwhile, you see Aaron Rodgers, who looks like he's struggling on every single snap to take a drop back, and more power to him, but you can just see the difference of how career arcs sort of go.
23-20 last night as the Bills knock off the Jets there in New York. The Bills moved to 4-2 on the season. Jets now 2-4 on the season. So Jeff Ulbrich taking the official, unofficial head coach. He's the one who gets the interim coordinator, our interim coach job, but we all know that Aaron Rodgers was over there like, I'm calling the offense, and I'll help you call the defense when I'm not.
Yeah,
looking
he called this guy, hey, Hack, let's get these play calls going.
So yeah, 803-404-6100. That was your NFL and Major League Baseball. Also, real quick, just tonight we continue football. We're in that middle of whatever the 57-day stretch. A lot of football tonight. Troy at South Alabama, if you're into that kind of thing. Kennesaw State at Middle Tennessee tonight, and Louisiana Tech at New Mexico State, if you're into any of that. Any of that interest you?
Major Applewhite at South Alabama, maybe?
Yes.
Okay.
And I say that, yes, because as we were driving to Birmingham and Tuscaloosa, I think it was maybe on Saturday morning, he was on one of the radio being interviewed and talking about ESPN being there at South Alabama to take on Troy and the excitement his team was getting.
Just Google the picture of Major Applewhite. He looks way older than I thought he did. Surprised by the image here. Okay, I did not have Major Applewhite looking that old.
Yeah, he's increasing in age. He looked old when he was at Texas, and he's only 46. He's only 46. 803-404-6100. Let's get out to the phone lines. Joe wants to weigh in this morning. Joe, how you doing? What's on your mind?
Hey, good morning, guys. Hey, Preston, man, I love the way you put that Oklahoma thing to bed, man. I don't think Oklahoma is good enough to beat us. I think we'll have a game in control by the third quarter. We're just the better team. I was listening to you guys talk about the short passes. Bill, I don't. Last year, you know, did we go deep a lot, or did Leggett just catch something short and break it long? I don't recall us going deep a lot last year. I really don't. Leggett was just good enough to catch a short pass and make a move, and he'd be off to the races. This year, you see the short passes. When they work, but when they don't, Lenoris breaks. He breaks outside of the pocket and makes a play with his legs. I don't know if Logan's offense is it designed to go deep, or is it designed to drop back 3 seconds, let the ball go, and hoping that the receiver is going to make a play and off to the races. I like to hear what you have to say about that. And another thing about this game Saturday, I think that Venables is going to test the ball security of Lenoir Sellers. You know, if he takes care of the ball from here on out, like I said yesterday when I called you guys, we're in every game. We have a bye week after Oklahoma, and I just see good things happening for the Gamecocks. But yeah, man, I just don't think that. I think that the offense right now is designed for him to go short. And, you know, if it's not there, you know, use your legs and improvise with it and then find a guy open. You know, like on the play where he missed the deep pass, but he rolled out of the pocket. He saw Gage Larvadain deep. He made the pass, but they just didn't connect on it. I just want to hear what you guys have to say about it, man. As usual, you guys have a great show. Have a great day, guys. Look forward to listening to you.
Appreciate the phone call, Joe.
Appreciate it, Joe. I'm gonna do a little research project on that because I do think that is interesting. So I don't have that exact answer as far as the deep passes compared to this year versus last year, but we do have the way to get the information, and I'm gonna bring that back tomorrow because I think we're talking about explosives, and that is worth investigating.
I'd say, Joe, you bring up a good question in terms of the offense, and I agree with it. Let's come back to that tomorrow morning and get into that a little bit because what exactly is the Dow Loggins offense? Now, I know he's had two entirely different style quarterbacks. Spencer Rattler. By the way, Spencer Rattler had a 17-yard run on Sunday against the Bucs that looked wildly athletic and much faster than anything I ever saw. And the announcers in that game, as I was watching, kept talking about how he's a dual threat guy who can beat you with his legs, not only his arm. And I kept thinking, like, did they do research on Spencer prior to the game. Like, it was one of the things he rolled early in the game. He rolled right, just turned it right upfield, weaved through a couple defenders, slid like he was a natural at it. My son Austin saw it and was like, "Oh, that's that old 4.7 speed." I was like, "It's a 4.95, son."
Yes.
He's like, "Oh,
yes, it's up there."
So we'll get to, but it's a legit question, and I think it is interesting now through. I mean, didn't go to a bowl through 18 games of the Dow Loggins experiment, and of course we'll hear from him tomorrow. You hear from Shane Beamer today. We'll hear from Dow Loggins tomorrow. 8:03.
So what we'll look up tomorrow is we'll look up Xavier's touchdowns from last year, see the distance in the air that they were. We don't have that on. I don't have that right now, but we will look that up tomorrow to figure out, because there's a couple things. How far is the ball going through the air? And also, is your wide receiver able to make an explosive play? And I think that is something that we need to look up. That's a great question, Joe.
It's yeah. And I think without looking back, I want to say both touchdowns on Saturday, and granted, the one to Harbor was obviously late in the game. You got to get down there, but I want to say both were within. I think both were 36 yards.
Yeah, they were
36.
Plus.
They were down there.
They were. I believe Shane's measure is 18 yards, so they were plus as far as explosives are concerned.
803-404-6100. We'll get into a big picture look around in college football. Frauds and 12 men on the field. We'll cover all of it. You're listening to Preston Thorne, Bill Gunner, Jen Jensen. It's the early game. Bill Gunner for the mortgage guru, Jacob Crowder with First Palmetto Bank. You know, right now there is a phenomenal opportunity if you're looking to move into Richland County. The Community Reinvestment Product. That's right. Contact Jacob Crowder to learn more today. If you're looking to move into Richland County, if you're in Richland County and looking to move around, call Jacob Crowder, 803-719-1005. Again, whether it's Richland County, Blythewood, Northeast, Southeast, the I-20 corridor, right now they are offering a 4.99% interest with a 5.075 APR on a 30-year fixed mortgage. And with everything, the housing market starting to settle down just a little bit, now is the time that you want to contact Jacob Crowder and learn more about the Community Reinvestment Product or other great options throughout the Midlands. So call Jacob Crowder today at First Palmetto Bank, 803-719-1005. Tell him Bill Gunner sent you.
Few things to take a look at out there this morning. Chapin area, Dutch Fork Road at Three Dog Road, an accident. Also, Faro at Park Lane. Fish Hatchery Road at Edmond Highway. And Trotter at Garner's Ferry Road. We have a report of an accident there as well. The chillier forecast we're going to have for a few more days. 71 for the high today, overnight low of 45. Tomorrow and Thursday, 64, 65, somewhere in there, overnight lows of 39. So definitely bundling up in the mornings for the next several days. Going to be staying in the low to mid 70s, looks like, for the weekend before we get back into the 80s next week. But currently it is 47 on the early game.
$8:16 on a Tuesday morning. Talking Tuesday. Shane Beamer speaking later on today. Again, reminder, you can hear that right here on 107.5 The Game. Also, coming up on Thursday night, you'll be able to hear Carolina Call, Shane Beamer and Todd Ellis here on 107.5 The Game, 100.3 The Game in Myrtle Beach. As tomorrow morning, we will turn our attention to Oklahoma. We're wrapping up Alabama thoughts. And also, Preston Thorne, most teams, not all, most teams have played 6. Some have played 7 games. And again, tonight starts week 8 of the college football season. Pretty good sample size now to do a little frauds and contenders. To break out the fraud, as they did on the SEC Shorts, we're going to borrow the Fraud Detector 3000. Where do you want to start here?
Let's start with somebody I think is supreme fraud, the Georgia Bulldogs.
Ooh.
The Georgia Bulldogs. And I would like to present for my evidence the last half against Mississippi State this past weekend. I believe they gave up, what was the score, 41-31?
41-31.
41-31, and in the last half they might have given up 21 points, I believe, which it wasn't on second stringers. It wasn't garbage time. The game was hotly contested, and Georgia's been giving up a lot of points all year, and they're not very explosive on offense. I don't know if they are as good as people think they are, so that's my evidence for Georgia.
Contender. They were up 34-10 in that game. I think they got bored. They were 34-10 early in the third quarter, got bored, and I think they just called the dogs off, if you will. I just
hear you.
Georgia, plus I give them a break. They were coming off of the Alabama game, and excuse me, did they play? They didn't play after Alabama. And I got to go back and look and see if they had a bye. I can't remember if they had a bye or not. They might have played last weekend. All of a sudden, I'm kind of blanking on if they played previously. That's right. They played Auburn. They blew out Auburn. But I think they were looking ahead to Texas. This weekend is huge. They on the road at Texas. They'll get a bye after that, and then get Florida in the cocktail party. But no, I'm with them. I think they're a contender. They're right there. I think because they lost that game to Alabama, that maybe we are writing them off a little bit. And it was an ugly loss. I know they came back and took the lead, but being down 30-7 in the manner they were was ugly. But I'm going to go with contender on them. They're there, not a fraud.
Tennessee.
Oh, I think I'm starting to think fraud.
You're a fraud.
I'm starting to think that, and I liked Tennessee, but JC brought it up. And he's right. Tennessee got fat and heavy off of some blowouts over Kent State. North Carolina State's not really good at football this year. Chattanooga. He's right. Tennessee, going back to that Oklahoma thing, and Josh Heupel openly admitted it, that his defense was playing so well against Oklahoma, he didn't want to give them something easy. And it's almost like he's put the brakes. It's like Josh Heupel himself put the brakes on that offense. They went 69, 51, 71, and then in the last 3 weeks, 25, 19, 23. Alabama this weekend. That game's in Knoxville. We'll see.
The winner of that game gets to advance out of the fraud region because Alabama is absolutely a fraud. Based on they did win that Georgia game, but they very possibly could have lost. Maybe they should have lost. And I believe there's a consecutive quarter range where
10. It's 10. The last 10 quarters.
The last 10 quarters have been not good, including our 4, which, again, when we look back on it, they should have lost that game. So, yes, I'm putting Alabama squarely in the fraud. So that makes me very interested in this weekend. Tennessee versus Alabama. Who's real, who's not?
I want people to remember when it comes to Alabama, who is currently sitting at 5-1. It looks pretty, but remember, they were only up a point on South Florida going into the fourth quarter. That was a 14-13 game, and Alabama scored 28 fourth-quarter points. They have the very beautiful blowout of Wisconsin. They smacked Western Kentucky around. But that South Florida game in Week 2 was a one-point game going into the fourth quarter. The Georgia game, they looked great for 2 quarters before completely imploding and Ryan Williams bailing them out. I'm with you. I love me some Kalen DeBoer. Alabama's got Tennessee, Missouri, and bye week, and then LSU over the next 3 weeks. 1 and 2. Missouri game, by the way, in Tuscaloosa. The other 2 are on the road.
That leads us to this one, Missouri.
I don't know. I have no clue what we're doing with Missouri.
We all
here.
know.
I have
we
no idea.
We all know I'm not fond of Eli Dorkowitz. We get that. We understand that. But for a team that was ranked as high as they were ranked going into the season, I can't help but call them a fraud.
Here's the thing. I like what Bill O'Brien's doing at Boston College. They won that one. The 3-point win against Vanderbilt. Now you're like, oh, okay.
Maybe a better win than you thought.
You survived.
Okay.
To get beat the way they did at Texas A&M is just a stat. 41-10. And then bounce back and beat. Look, again, Murray State 51-0. Buffalo 38-0. Massachusetts 45-3. And then you got that 3-game sample size in there where they're 2-1. It's just the number there, 41-10. I'm going to stay with they're a contender. I think the game got away from them in College Station. I think the game got away from them. But I would put them now, if you had an SEC ranking, I'd have them above Tennessee.
Ooh,
I think that Texas A&M game got away from them.
My counter argument would be that if he was a real contender,
you don't get beat 41-10.
No,
I can understand that. They got, as JC said,
you can lose, but not like that.
Missouri has Auburn this weekend. Missouri goes, by the way, Auburn, Alabama, Oklahoma, and then South Carolina. They've got 4 straight here. I'm trying to look and see where their next bye is because they've got the 19th, the 26th. Okay, they've got the bye in between Alabama and Oklahoma.
One more, Texas A&M.
I think they're a pretender. I know I'm kind of doing it backwards here on them. I just don't think Texas A&M is quite there yet. Again, I didn't watch all of that Missouri game to know where that thing went sideways for Missouri. But A&M, they lost to Notre Dame. They pounded McNeese. 13-point win over Florida when Florida was reeling. 6-point win over Bowling Green. 4-point win over Arkansas. The huge blowout of Missouri. They get Mississippi State this weekend. Then they go on their little run. That'll be LSU. Look, coming to Columbia and coming here to South Carolina in what's going to be a massive game. Win or lose. That one I'll circle as probably the biggest game of Beamer's career because it's here. Because you're either staring down 3 and 4, you're either staring 3 and 5 in the face, or you're thinking about getting to 5 wins with Vanderbilt. I know Vanderbilt's tougher, but getting to 5 wins with Vanderbilt and Wofford still in the so kind of bowl eligibility, riding that Texas A&M game. That's going to be the one. So I think this place will be live, and that'll be a night game here. By the way, they've already put those schedules out, so it'll be a night game, but. A&M, I'm still going to go pretend a fraud.
Okay, all right.
Number 14 just feels high for them.
Feels high for them. All right, I think that's one category. Now, this second category, if we was to throw all these teams in a Royal Rumble bag, wrestling style, 3-way matchup, Kentucky, South Carolina, and Vanderbilt, who walks out with the belt?
Well, Kentucky has already lost to South Carolina and Vanderbilt. Get them out of there.
They're out. Okay.
They're out.
I like it.
And it's a no holds barred with a ladder. You got to get up and grab the belt off of the hanging from the ceiling on November 9th up in Nashville.
I like it.
And just for the record, as we sit here on October the 15th, I have already told Austin, my son, we're probably not going because I'm worried about losing that game now.
Yeah, I mean, they're better than you think, for sure.
I'll be honest. There's part of me, because that game's in Nashville, that if you were to say, hey, rank the Final Four SEC games, Missouri, toughest to easiest, Missouri, Vanderbilt, Oklahoma, A&M. I like A&M in Columbia. I think night game, I think South Carolina will be ready. I think that'll be a wild environment, regardless of what happens this weekend.
I think that's fascinating because
I can't believe I just put Vanderbilt ahead of A&M and Oklahoma, but I did.
I mean, they're playing well, and they have an interesting offense that you could work with. The reason why I put those three in that little category, because I do think they're sort of a survivor style for them. And then I think the bottom of the SEC, which I'll get to tomorrow, is Auburn and Oklahoma.
Okay.
I think those teams, and obviously Arkansas, but we don't have to worry about them as much this year. But I think Auburn and Oklahoma are the absolute bottom of the SEC right now.
I still, the Vegas I get, and we'll have Brian Edwards on again on Thursday, but I still don't know how Vanderbilt was a 2-touchdown underdog. Essentially, I think by the time that game kicked off, it was down to about 12.5, might have been around 13. But how Vanderbilt was an underdog in the manner they were to Kentucky. Can't figure that one out.
No, that doesn't make a lot of sense.
So, no. Any more fraud contenders or frauds? We're not even doing contenders or pretenders. You just now at this point you're a flat out fraud.
Yeah, I just wanted to know who was fraud, who was not. Obviously, I think Texas is at the top of the class. And then we had the bottom of the classes, and then those teams that we talked about were in the middle. And so we will see. I think, as JC coined it, Survivor Weekend in the SEC this weekend. There are some really interesting games that maybe help us determine who's fraud and who's not.
Real quick, chance for you to get out ahead of everybody. Fraud or contender? Penn State. I know this is tough for you.
Fraud until further notice.
Okay, 3-0 on the season. Miami Hurricanes.
Fraud until further notice.
I got to throw this one in there. Number 10, Clemson.
Probably a little more positive than most people.
Okay, all right. There was the other top 10 teams. Not even going to challenge you with Iowa State because
I didn't even know. I was like, what?
yeah, because we had no clue. 803-404-6100 if you want to weigh in this morning via the text line or any other way. You're listening to Bill Gunner, Preston Thorne, Jen Jensen. When we come back, we'll get into this Dan Lanning, Oregon. Boy, way to play the system, Dan Lanning. Way to take Lane Kiffin and one of them. You're listening to the early game. Bill Gunner for Love Chevrolet, I-26 in Harbison between Lowe's and Frankie's Fun Park. And as we head toward the end of the year, one of the things you might be thinking about is yourself. Maybe you need a new vehicle. Maybe you've got a student who's about to graduate high school. Maybe they're about to graduate college, and you're thinking of the perfect way to send them off to college or into the world is with a brand new vehicle. And at Love Chevrolet, they will make sure not only do you get to see the largest selection of vehicles to find that car, truck, or SUV, but you get the absolute guaranteed lowest price. That's right. That means you can go shop other dealerships, take their deal back to the folks at Love Chevrolet, and they will top it, or they'll write you a check for $1,000. Hasn't happened anytime lately and will not happen anytime soon because, again, the lowest prices are at Love Chevrolet. That's why they call it the $1,000 low price challenge. So go visit Love Chevrolet today, I-26 in Harbison between Lowe's and Frankie's Fun Park. Check out that incredible lot that they have 14 acres of brand new Chevys. Find that car, truck, or SUV that you've been looking for, and together, let's drive.
Things definitely have picked up out on the highways this morning. Trotter at Garner's Ferry Road, an accident. Also Shop Road near South Beltline Boulevard. In Lexington, Old Cherokee Road at Old Chapin. Highway 1 at I-77. In downtown Columbia, looking at Hardin Street at Colonial Drive. Also a report of an accident, Hardscrabble Road at Lee Road. Blythewood at Wilson. And up in the Chapin area, Dutch Fork Road at Three Dog Road. West Columbia Fish Hatchery Road near Pine Ridge Drive. So definitely it's gotten busier. Hope things get cleared up here soon for you. 71 for the high today. Overnight low 45, 64 and 65 Wednesday and Thursday. Overnight lows of 39. Still about 45 on the early game.
.8:33 here on a Tuesday morning. Reminder, you can go to 1075thegame.com, click on Sweet Deals, and purchase your craft beer card today. That's 12 different craft beer locations, $30 at each brewery, a $360 value for only $79. Go to 1075thegame.com, click on Sweet Deals, purchase your craft beer card today. Let's get out to the phone lines. David wants to weigh in this morning. David, how you doing? What's on your mind?
I'm doing well, man. I was calling to see, I've heard you say a number of times that you thought Kalen DeBoer was the best college football coach in the country. And I wanted to see if after the last couple of weeks, if you've changed that opinion at all. Because I was with you. I don't know about best, but I thought he was really, really good. But just based on the results of the last 2 weeks, I mean, losing to Vanderbilt, who is playing much better than they normally do, I'll give you that, and then barely beating South Carolina, two teams that they have a significant talent advantage over, and then just I didn't take notes, but I just with my own eyes seeing some questionable calls and decision-making. I just wanted to get your take on whether or not you still held that opinion or whether you maybe have changed a little bit.
I feel like I have to hold that opinion for a little bit longer. I got to own it for a little bit longer. Can't make a strong statement like that and bail out after the show. But I am interested. I think, and thank you for the phone call, David. Being down there this weekend and talking to other Alabama fans and watching them, and now really looking at Alabama, Preston, it is. We talk about this like the transition from Mike Krzyzewski to John Shire, or when it was Urban Meyer to Will Muschamp, or whatever. When you talk about like big time programs, great programs that are rolling under a coach, and then that coach retires or leaves or whatever it is, and you see the transition, and it is such a stark. And I think Alabama fans, this is what was fascinating. Alabama fans like realizing that this weekend, like how great the greatness of Nick Saban. Not that he won championships, but the way he had his team mentally motivated to go and play, the discipline with which they played, week in, week out. You never saw the slip up, and somebody texts and says, remember, don't forget Nick lost to Louisiana Monroe. He had that one game his first year, in 2006, but that was the thing, and it was such a machine, and you never saw those crazy upsets that occurred to the really crazy upsets that occurred to Alabama, and the record that he had there in Tuscaloosa. And Alabama fans are like, wow, this, as you said, this is what y'all have been dealing with your entire life. This is because for them, the last 17 years of Nick Saban has been nothing but great, and all of a sudden, it's like, wait. This is so you guys show up to every game a little nervous that something could go wrong. You guys actually talk up every game like there's something could things go wrong in less than big games.
Yeah, and I think the thing about Kalen, and he's figuring out what the SEC is. He's coached in big games, but they were over there, and even just yesterday, I believe in his press conference, he was like, yeah, Tennessee's not that loud. I coached at Washington. I know what loud is. And it's like,
don't say that out loud.
I don't know if you know that for real. And so I think he's figuring things out. There's a picture on Twitter, which I think best illustrates this. You have to go down some rabbit holes to get there, but you can get there. I believe in your internet prowess. It's a side-by-side of Kalen DeBoer's office versus Nick Saban's office. And it's looking at the interior decor. Nick's is like old mahogany and wood, and it's looks like a library.
Yeah.
Kalen's is very modern, a lot of screens, very techie. And they're both cool, but they're just totally different.
Okay, I need to see this.
I'll try and send it to you. But they're just totally different. And so if you didn't know there was a difference between these two dudes as far as coaching, you could just look at what their offices are. And I think, like you said, the Alabama fans are having to figure this out. Like, oh yeah, I forgot we had the greatest. We had the GOAT.
It is, since Nick Saban has been at Alabama football, things have changed. We've gotten more into Twitter. Facebook has really raged into and it does feel like my kids mentioned this about Alabama, that it's very just old school. The speakers aren't that loud. They rely on the band. They don't do anything flashy running out of the tunnel. And it was really cool to have my son in particular who gets into all that, and he sees, you go to Williams-Brice and you got the train comes out, and you got the fire taking place, and you got Shane Beamer telling us it's time for football. You get all that. You get all the pomp and everything, whereas Alabama's just like, it's time to play football. All right, let's go on the field and smash you. And that was Nick Saban, and you just mentioned it. I only need one computer in here. Anybody? My fax machine is still right over there. If you need me, you can just send me a fax machine. I'll check my pager in a little while if you need me. If you need me, just page me and I'll call you back. That's kind of what it feels like. Whereas, Kalen DeBoer's new age football.
Yeah, it's all new and techie. It's cool, but it's just different.
I forget, did we play it here? I forget if we played it here, if I heard it going to Alabama. But, they were talking, the fans are upset. The fans are upset that after practice in the preseason, he served ice cream. He served ice cream after practice one time. And it is welcome to this century. Welcome to the new age of college football where, yes, you have to talk about each. They didn't talk about South Carolina Friday. They talked about the game. Every phone call that I listened to on the Tide Sports Network talked about, but it never once were they like, South Carolina runs the ball well. Well, their defense is pretty good. Oh, they've got a really good duo at defensive end. They didn't. South Carolina's name got mentioned once in an hour and a half of radio, not because they were just South Carolina or because they're South Carolina, but because they're South Carolina and they're not an elite team. It was all about what Bama had to do.
So let me not let you get out of that corner. So you're not backing off of Kalen DeBoer.
Can't do it now. Got to stay with it.
But you're just saying he's taking a while to get used to this conference.
In all seriousness, I do wonder. It's Kane Womack's fault right now. Mm-hmm. Kane Womack gets all the thing, and now it's Alabama. Can he go out and land? Look, Dave Aranda may very well be available from Baylor very, very soon. If you go and get a Dave Aranda who is familiar with the SEC, who's that old school, mean, nasty defensive coach, comes in, all of a sudden I think things would be fixed.
Yeah, Dave doesn't want to be a head coach anymore.
He's got the experience. He's like, I don't know about this.
He want to go back to drawing up some defenses.
Yeah, just put me back. I don't want to deal with boosters. I don't want to deal with this. Just give me 11 dudes, give me a few subs, and let me run a defense. That's all I want to do. So, speaking of defensive, you saw the picture, by the way?
Okay, so my comparison is Saban's office looks like you would get a glass of brown liquor, have a couple cigars. There actually should be a moose on the wall or something like that. It's very, very warm and man cave-like. DeBoer's, you're selling cell phones. It's like a showroom.
That's a good point. Yeah.
It's like, welcome to Verizon.
Isn't it? But isn't it a stark difference?
It's stark. Yeah. You're right. Modern versus classic, old, warm. There should be a fireplace.
Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
Totally.
Mm-hmm.
Very interesting. Okay.
The one you sent us is a little blurry, but I also want to make a joke here if I can get a good picture of it. Yeah, so in this picture here, you've got, what is even funnier is you got DeBoer. He's got an untucked shirt. It's collared, but he's got the pants on. Looks very loose, very light, very relaxed. Saban's office is dark, but he's got kind of the sweater vest on. He looks like I think in this first picture, it looks like he might have glasses here.
I see a leather couch.
Leather, very professional, very, very, again, yes, you've got chairs I believe over there that look like they would be in my grandparents' house.
And upholstered.
DeBoer's is a shiny table there with the Alabama symbol on it.
A lot of backlit shelves.
There's also just a lot to eat, a lot to consume, if you will, from these two pictures, because
it's fascinating.
This looks like four dudes just talking. J.J. Watt's in this picture, Kane Womack, Freddie Roach. And it looks like just four guys laughing and chilling. Then you go down to Nick Saban's picture on what I'm looking at. Saban's got his hand up, clearly describing a defense of some sort. It looks very serious. It feels like my financial manager is telling me my risk reward for this investment.
Also, immediately when you walk into Saban's office, you got to sit with your legs crossed because this is business. We are talking serious business here. Every picture, the guy opposing Saban has his legs crossed because this is serious.
I do see him in a second picture where he's actually in shorts and a polo shirt talking to Michael Strahan, but they're hanging out again on the comfortable chairs and comfortable leather couch.
Also, I'll just say this: like if you look at Kalen DeBoer's office, it's well lit. It looks vibrant. You walk into Nick Saban's office, I can imagine. I feel like this picture was taken during the day. The shades are closed. There are lamps everywhere that are on.
Yes,
see, you got to use lamps.
Mm-hmm.
Lamp lighting is a lot softer on the eyes. It's a little bit. The other stuff is too harsh.
I'm telling you that being down there this past week, I don't know if other Gamecock fans that went and experienced it. Those Alabama fans, I mean, it's something like out of Encino Man, pulling that guy out of whatever it was, whatever, and putting him into the and everybody, and now Alabama fans are like, what? What? You mean we have to talk about Vanderbilt in South Carolina? Vanderbilt's a viable team that could beat us? This doesn't happen. Of course, they hadn't lost to Vanderbilt since 1978, but. Anyway, 803-404-6100. You're listening to Preston Thorne, Bill Gunner, Jen Jensen. We will get to that Dan Landing thing when we come back. It's the early game.
Did you know that you can use your body's own healing properties to revitalize your achy joints and get you real lasting pain relief? I'm talking about advanced regenerative medicine at QC Kinetics. So if you're tired of arthritic pain in your knees, hips, backs, or shoulders, there is something that you need to check out. You can enhance your joints, improve mobility, and get back to doing the stuff you love without pain, without drugs, without surgery, and importantly, there will be no downtime. Under the leadership of Medical Director Mitchell Shonkup, QC Kinetics is the nation's leader in this exciting breakthrough using cellular therapy. They've got tens of thousands of satisfied patients, and consultation is totally free. So call now, take action, get long-lasting joint relief with the help from QC Kinetics. Call the folks at 803-281-6860. That's 803-281-6860.
Bill Gunner from Mid-State Roofing, where recently we've had a bunch of storms kind of roll through our state. And if you've looked at your roof, if you've looked at your business and you've noticed the roof there has had a little bit of damage to it, it's time to call Mid-State Roofing. It doesn't matter where you're at, if you're in Columbia, if you're in Greenville, if you're in Spartanburg, if you're in Florence, Myrtle Beach, Mid-State Roofing will take care of your business, take care of your family. So call today, 803 356-1919. Again, that's 803-356-1919. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Mid-State Roofing will have somebody ready to take your phone call, whether it's an on-call technician or a Mid-State Roofing employee. When you give them a phone call, they're ready to answer your phone call and help you with a maintenance contract. So call Mid-State Roofing today. Again, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. They're ready to help you. 803-356-1919. You can visit them on the web, midstateroofing.com. Call Mid-State Roofing today. Tell them Bill Gunner sent you. Final segment of the Tuesday morning show. We'll flip the calendar, or flip the week, I guess, however you want to say it, to Oklahoma really tomorrow. And right off the bat tomorrow morning, early on, Preston Thorne is ready to make he went down a path in the 7 o'clock hour. He's going to do a little more studying, a little more research, and then right off the bat tomorrow morning, we will declare it Oklahoma week, and Preston Thorne's going to hit you with a proclamation. Is that fair? Am I wording all that correctly?
It's fair.
Fair.
It's fair.
So about 6:15 tomorrow, 6:15 a.m., tune in as Preston Thorne makes a proclamation. Also tomorrow morning, we'll have Perry Orth with us at about 8:15 tomorrow morning to get his thoughts on the development of Lenore Sellers and everything going on with the offense. 803-404-6100 if you want to weigh in on the text line. Dan Lanning and Oregon. Now, Sunday morning, my son Austin told me this as we were driving back, that Oregon had 12 men on the field. Got called for a penalty there in the final seconds. There was speculation. There was not confirmation, but speculation that Oregon had done that on purpose because, and this is genius, you ran time off the clock. And the worst thing that was going to happen if the play didn't, how do I want to say, succeed, if Ohio State offensively did not succeed, the worst thing that was going to happen was time was going to get run off the clock and you were going to give up 5 yards, and essentially Ohio State was still out of field goal range. So apparently they ran the play about 6 or 7 seconds, went off the clock, wasted the clock, the penalty was thrown. Oregon gave up 5 yards, but 6 or 7 seconds came off the clock. There was no reset of the clock, even though technically the play, I guess, didn't happen. Yesterday, Dan Lanning was asked about this. Here was his response in his press conference.
Much of the commentary world has decided and struck you as a genius, Dan, for the 12-man penalty and declared that it was intentional. Was it indeed intentional to induce the throw one-on-one against Jabbar in that spot?
He wasn't one-on-one. We actually had a safety on top. So there was so it's called dog. It's when you play, but he wasn't in extremely tight coverage, but he was in dog coverage where he had safety on top of him. And there was a timeout before that. We spent an inordinate amount of time on situations. There's some situations that don't show up very often in college football, but this is one that obviously was something that we have worked on. So you can see the result.
Now, what you can't hear by looking at is you can't see the little smirk on his face.
Oh, my gosh.
The little smirk on his face tells the whole story, and he's like, "Yes, we've worked on this situation.
Little situation
before."
rarely come up.
Yeah, that's because you can't get that from listening to, but you have to see the smirk on his face. And Bill, I'm here to tell you, this is a common strategy.
Is it?
Yeah,
more
man.
than we realize.
Yeah. First of all, coaching point, the way you count football players on the field, 3, 6, 9, 12. You go 3, 6, 9, 12, and when there's no 12, then you'll have 11. So you always go 3, 6, 9, and then you see if there's a 12th man, and that's how you count them in. So that's how you can always figure out how many players are on the field. Second part, anytime you're within the goal line strategy, there's really no penalty for taking a penalty. So I would tell my players, it's going to be on 1. If you jump off sides, we're only moving halfway to the goal line, and if you need to sneak an extra player out there, either they catch it and you get penalized half the distance to the goal, or you have an extra defender. In this case, they were a little further away, so they let time run off. I would say this is probably the last time this will happen, though.
No, I don't think so. Nuances here. Nuances. Just to give you a little bit, it was 3rd and 25.
Mm-hmm.
It was 3rd and 25 at the 43-yard line. So, again, 5 yards moves it to the 38. Who cares? But the way they did it was right before the snap. It was Dante Manning going onto the field. So it's not like they sent 12 out there and they were lined up. And because of the way it worked, it was what's considered a live ball penalty. Therefore, it allowed the clock to run. So it's not like, again, it's not like they had 12 guys that were out there. They lined up. Will Howard looked at it. Was like, oh, they got 12. They basically shifted a guy off of the sideline very late, very, very late, to make it technically an illegal substitution penalty, not 12 men on the field. I don't know if there's a difference in that, but an illegal substitution to which, and then you hear Dan Lanning. No, he wasn't one-on-one. We had a safety over top. We had a safety back there that was actually over the top. Maybe you didn't see that because he went out there very late.
It was dog coverage, just so you didn't know. Yeah, like I said, it's people like Dan Lanning and Lane makes you wonder why we have so many rules, because they find the loopholes. As the great coach once said, you got to know the rules so that you can bend the hell out of them. And that's what we do.
Again, there was 10 seconds on the clock when the play happened. It went down to 6 seconds. Will Howard on the next play used up the next 6 seconds to slide.
Yeah, he shouldn't have done that either. I'm sorry. That was the great Brad Loing who said that, if that adds any context to those rules. You got to know the rules so you can bend the hell out of them.
We will bend some rules tomorrow. We'll know the rules and we'll bend them. Preston Thorne will have a proclamation for Oklahoma week starting at 6:15. Tune in for that. Y'all have a great rest of the day.
Appreciate y'all.